guys, it's Amelia, but not the pilot, just Amelia. I have finally decided to do it. I'm reading Fourth Wing.
Like, what is that? What is that? You guys! They must have a really high birth rate in this society. I have things to say.
She's immediately like, I'm not weak. I, yet again, know I'm going to hate this series, and I'm very excited for it. I'm trying to go in with an open mind, though. It did look really good originally, and I feel like there was a lot of people, like, raving about it, so maybe I will like it. It sounds sort of like Divergent, but then there's dragons, but also sort of ACOTAR. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. However, as the time has gone by, more and more people are just like talking about how much they don't like it. So I'm excited. I also am really invested in the whole drama surrounding Iron Flame, the second book, but we're not getting into that in this video. This video is just about book 1. I'm going to do a little vlog portion of me reading the book. That's going to be later on. I have everything tagged for the different sections, but right now I'm going to tell you what I think Fourth Wing is about and anything that I know about it so far. And then I'm going to read like the first couple pages. Looks like it has maps and stuff, so I'm gonna look at that. So basically all that I know is that there's dragons. There's a bunch of these TikTok sounds going around on Instagram and TikTok that are like, I think it's the voice actor for the audiobook is a man talking about, I think is his name Zayden? I think the girl's name is Violet, and I think the whole book is from Violet's perspective, but it's like she's written it down or something like that. And then this Zayden man is sort of like a 4 character, like Divergent 4, and he's like a tough man who runs the Dragon Academy that she's gotten into. And from what I understand, she's sort of like, she's really cool, badass, but also like incapable. Like she is presented to us as a very cool, kick-ass female character, but then she's like a doormat and like isn't capable of doing anything. That's just my impression without even reading the book. So we'll see. Maybe my thoughts will be changed. I feel like the imagery is a lot of like black clothing, leather, which is also giving Divergent. And then the only other thing I know is that there's some sort of test to get in or something, to be a wing master, wing leader, I don't know, which sort of sounds like Throne of Glass to me, because isn't in Throne of Glass they have the wyverns that they ride, and then they have to compete, the witches have to compete to be the leader of the wyvern team or something. I'm also curious if these are actually dragons or if they're wyverns technically, because I don't know if you've seen this little thing, but I think about it every day. I saw it on TikTok a little while ago, and now I've realized that I don't actually know what a dragon is, because apparently this is a dragon and this is a wyvern. And basically every like pop culture movie that's ever existed, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, all of those, they're wyverns, they're not dragons. Except for How to Train Your Dragon is a dragon, because he has legs. Anyway, I don't even know if she's going to describe that in the book, probably not. But let's get into it. Let's open her up. I want you to know that I have been waiting for this book at my library. I wanted a physical book. I don't really like doing ebooks, but I had to do an ebook, so here we are. I've been waiting to get it out of the library for literally months, so here we are. We're just gonna do the ebook. I've given up, guys. Dedication page. Here's the artist. You hold the power to shape the world. Cute, whatever. There is 39 chapters, 317 pages in my ebook form. I don't know if that's how many there is normally. And then, okay, this is interesting. The following text has been faithfully transcribed from Navarian into the modern language by Jessina Nailwort. Oh boy. We're getting the weird fantasy names. Curator of the Scribe Quadrant at Basigarth War College. Okay, full fantasy, let's go. We're living the fantasy. All events are true, and names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen. May their souls be commended to Melek. Who the hell's Melek? Okay, so it sounds like the main character has written it, but then it's been translated into English. Okay, and then we have a map of the Basgaith War College. How the hell do you say that?
This isn't a dragon's name, but I think it's a really good example of how easy it is to get Gaelic wrong. So the name of the college is Basgiath. I don't know how the author wants it pronounced, but it's actually two Scottish Gaelic words, Bas and Skia. Bas means death, and Skia means wing. So you can see how it makes sense to have a dragon college called Deathwing. Unfortunately, if you don't put the accent on the A in Bas, it doesn't mean death, it means palm, as in the palm of your hand. So instead of meaning Deathwing, it means Palm Wing, which sounds like a holiday resort rather than a deadly dragon college.
I did see there's drama about the author Rebecca Yarros pronouncing Scots Gaelic words incorrectly. Apparently she borrowed a bunch of words from Scots, but then just pronounces them however she wants. And she has since apologized about this. However, that was a big controversy because it sounds like she's using those words as names for dragons, I think, and those words translate to like fire bringer, and it's a fire breathing dragon or something. Like they directly mean what it is, and she just sort of made up pronunciations because she doesn't care. But it sounds like she is now enrolled in Scots Gaelic and is attempting to rectify that, so that's good at least. All right, so this map is pretty straightforward. It's not that big, so it looks like we're getting a little school. It's very Hogwarts vibes, and then everybody lives in the one area, and then this area is mostly empty, which is sort of weird. And then we have fields. It sort of looks like a river to me, though. Gauntlet, flight field. Scribe quadrant. I don't understand why this one building is mostly not labeled. It's the administration building, and it's massive, but there's, like, nothing in it. That doesn't make sense. Like, what? Everyone is living and doing stuff in the other area? Also, the dorm section doesn't look very big. First years. Oh my god, is she gonna be like 12? I hope not. Alright, so that's the book. There it starts. A dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without its dragon is dead. Bum, bum, bum. I will say, I am not a fan of when books have fake quotes from the world in the top section. I call it like the Dune phenomenon. I think Dune started it. I don't actually know. But Dune does that. And then I just read a book recently that did it. I just don't like it because to me it's very corny. I feel like I don't mind when books have like quotes at the beginning that's like, this is the vibe. And then you're like, yeah, those quotes are really good, and I understand the vibe now. But I don't need one in front of every chapter. Because it's like, sure, it adds a little bit to, like, the lore, but I'd rather you, like, weave that into the actual chapter than put it at the beginning of each chapter. Because I feel like it makes the chapters very separated, and I don't like that. Because when I'm reading, I'm flowing through, it's all one book to me. I want the chapters as, like, places to stop before I go to bed, but, like, I don't want a weird little quote before each chapter. Drives me nuts. Because then I have to sit there and I'm like, oh, so what character is writing this? And they're important this way? And this will come into play later. Like, it's too much thought. I want it more meshed into the writing. That's just my opinion. But I'm excited. I have high hopes. Or rather, like, I'm excited to read this. I think rating-wise, the end result is going to be bad because of my reading style, like the books that I tend to like and not like, but I'm excited to read it anyway because I do enjoy reading a bad book. Not that this is bad, we don't know yet. I'm really talking like I have made my mind up already, but I promise I'm going in with an open mind. I'm very excited to read it because everyone's been talking about it. So let's get into it. To the vlog. Guys, this book is crazy. It's crazy. I am 5 chapters in because I'm reading it with some friends. We're doing like a little book club situation, and I have taken so many notes. It has me like screaming laughing because it's just ridiculous. I love it, but at the same time I'm like, guys, really? First off, why did she only have 6 months to train? Apparently her mom wanted her to do this and is like forcing her to do this, so she has to do it. But it's like she only had 6 months. Why didn't her mom tell her earlier? Her mom is out to kill her. Furthermore, her mom can control storms, but I think there was a storm while she was doing the parapet thing. Is her mom trying to kill her? Maybe? Also, she's 20-something years old, but her mom is dictating what she's allowed to do. So apparently she has to go join the rider club thing, even though she wants to go be a scribe. That makes no sense. This whole first chapter with her mom and her sister is just ridiculous. Like, first off, her sister is in the military, but left randomly without her orders and just left her post to come all the way to come see her mother and sister and try to convince her mom that it's okay, which is not, like, and, like, she didn't succeed. So why did her sister do that? That she would get, like, punished, would she not? But as you will see, there's literally no punishments in this military system, and the military system doesn't actually make sense. So the mom is so set on her daughter being a writer that she literally would rather have her kid die than be a scribe because it's a lower class. Like, that's ridiculous. She's so itty-bitty tiny. Violet is so tiny. She's so small. Everyone keeps saying it. Shut up. Oh my god. Like, I'm over that. I'm over that trope 100%. We're done with it. There's also a grammar mistake on, like, the 3rd page. Bothered me a little bit. Why did Violet pack books? Do they not have books over in this other castle? Is she not gonna be able to go back and forth? I don't understand. Also, she's probably not going to survive anyway. Why would she bring books? I don't understand what her thinking process was for that. And also, why are the clothings not standardized for this test thing? That she's about to wear this, like, tunic thing, and her sister is like, no, girl, you gotta wear these rider leathers that are super hot sexy. Here's a corset and some leather pants. And she puts them on, and she's like, oh no, people are gonna hate me because I'm cheating. And the sister's like, there's no rules, it's fine, cheat anyway. Like, what? Which later, when they're in the thing, they're all wearing sort of different clothes anyway, so there's no standardization, but apparently only riders are allowed to wear black, but they're all wearing black anyway immediately. There was an Engorgio dick joke, which I thought was sort of funny. I don't understand. This author, I feel like, is classified as romantasy or new adult, whatever, so she's allowed to have sex in the book. However, I feel like she, every once in a while, remembers, oh, I'm allowed to talk about sex in this, and then just, like, inserts a random little sentence, and you're like, ugh, why was that necessary? What's going on? She has beauty and brains, and she's special because she has gray hair and pale ice white skin, just like Edward Cullen, girl. Ugh. Also, when they later describe how her hair works, which is so funny, she's basically got frosted tips. But she was sick as a kid, so that made her extremely frail. So she has frail muscles, joints, and tendons. Basically, her whole body is always falling apart, and she's weak as heck. Also, she's very flat, itty-bitty tiny, has no muscles, no curves. Okay. All the fan art gives her enormous boobs. But her hair apparently loses pigmentation at the end bits, because that's how her disease works or something like that. So even if she cut it short, it would still make her stand out. But everyone's like, dude, you should cut it because people are going to use it against you when you're fighting, but also when you're riding a dragon, the wind's gonna blow it everywhere. And she's like, but it's healthy. Like, that makes no sense. Of course, she does the fantasy braid. Gotta have the fantasy braid. This is a fantasy series after all. Why did she bring her backpack all the way up to the office to meet the mom? There was no reason for her to do that. Her sister's giving her all these tips on how to survive this parapet thing, but then meanwhile, they're also talking about sex and being like, let's go get laid, girl. Like, why are we talking about this? She's literally about to die. Are dragons sentient or pets? Because I'm very confused about this whole dragon situation. First off, why are the dragons and griffins fighting? Then how come they've recruited puny little humans to assist them in this war? And the war mostly seems to be a territorial thing. Like, why do the dragons and the griffins care about, like, human things, like where your government location is and what your borders are? That, like, doesn't really make sense. And I would argue that dragons and griffins don't really need humans to be doing this. And the humans are the pets. But, like, also, why are humans even involved? And okay, yeah, sure, they need the humans to access powers or something like that. But at the same time, like, dragons and griffins are, like, massive creatures. And I would also argue that they would probably be fine just coexisting. And
It seems very, like, human government problems to be having for a magical creature. The rebellion relic tattoo thing is so funny to me. Like, so ridiculously funny. It's just something to make them look cool. But, like, I also don't love that every single character is basically just, like, a punk rock person. Like, they're like, they got shaved sides and pink hair, and that one has a pink streak in her hair, and that person has purple hair. Like, what is this? Why are they all just punk rock kids? The most realistic thing so far in this series has been that spiral staircases are deadly. Because all of the spiral staircases, for some reason, have no middle section, so you could just fall into the middle and die. First off, that's a waste of space. Second off, why? They must have a really high birth rate in this society, and literally no other jobs in the entire world, that there are so many people that want to do this dragon thing. Because 90% of the people will die. And even after that, it's pretty much a guaranteed death just to be in this military unit of dragon people. And it seems like the only other jobs is you're either in the dragon riders thing, you're a scribe, you're a healer, or you're, I don't know, there was like one other thing, I don't remember what it was. But those are the 4 options, apparently, in society. There's gotta be other jobs, are there not? Furthermore, why are all these kids going to die? The first test literally weeds out 70 kids. That's 20% of all the kids that applied. That means that 70 people just died just to try to be in this. I don't understand why would you want to be a writer? Because it's cool? Like, I don't see the value of wanting to be a writer. You get some magical powers-ish, and you're gonna die young. That's the value. That's literally all it is. You get to ride a dragon. So 70 people died just in the weird first thing they have, which is walking across a parapet, which I don't feel like she knows what a parapet is, because I don't feel like that's what was described. And we're gonna get back to that, because I have things to say about this parapet. But they walk across the parapet and get in there, and now there's about 300 kids that have made it through that first thing, right? And so these 300 kids are there, but they make this big speech about how 150 of you, Xaden says, half of you will be dead by next summer, and only 30% will be left by the fall. So basically, everyone's gonna be dead by next year. Why would they even bother trying to do this? Like, I don't see the value of wanting to be a rider at all. Furthermore, while they're standing there and the dragons show up, 3 people run away screaming and then immediately die. Did they not realize that dragons were gonna be here? I don't understand why you would run, and at that point, if you saw 1 person die, why 2 more people would run when everyone else just standing still is completely fine. Also, once you enter, it sort of seems like you either die or you become a rider and then eventually die. There's no other way to leave. Are you allowed to just leave if you want? Because it doesn't seem like it. I also hate Xaden, straight off the bat, the fact that she's like, he's the most evil person, he's out to get me. Also, his dad killed my brother, so she should hate him, because Xaden hates her because her mom killed his dad. Like, she just sees him and she goes, oh no, but he's hot. Like, I hate that. And he literally is like, I'm gonna kill you. And she's like, stop. Like, what is that? You guys! The second Dylan started talking about he was gonna get married and he has future plans, I knew that kid was dead. I knew he was immediately dead. I was like, oh, there he goes. There he goes, he's fallen. Also, the fact that marriage is apparently, like, a reward for graduating, very weird. Don't love that. I don't understand, like, the whole society and birth rate and everything seems off. Everything seems wrong. And then we get to chapter 2. Randomly, now there's religion introduced. I was like, okay, she's praying to random saints. Sure. I don't love how we introduce a lot of background information. For example, we have the moments when she's in the office with her mom and sister, and her mom and sister are just spitting out all these random facts. Then we have the parapet, which is one of my favorite moments, because I'm just gonna go over it, walking across a skinny little piece of stones above a big chasm, and she's trying to distract herself, right? And she's like, oh, well, I can't sing, so I guess I'm just gonna have to recite a textbook. What? That's basically, it's like if I was walking across this piece of stone and I was like, I am from America. The capital of the U.S. is D.C. We are bordered by Canada and Mexico. And she's screaming it into the void. People must think she is crazy. Are you joking? Oh my god. Like, girl, what are you doing? Also, how did the name checkers get over there? So Xaden and his two buds that were on the one end of the bridge parapet, and then there's people on the other end, and it seems like maybe the only way to get over to the rider area is this bridge parapet, or by going through a healer's wing or something like that. So does that mean Xaden and his two buds or whatever had to walk across this parapet to come get the names, and then they have to walk back behind everybody? I feel like that doesn't really make sense from a risk perspective. They're already dragon riders, and we're now risking them by making them walk across this dangerous parapet again. Like, sure, they've already done it, sure. But it's like, it apparently is dangerous, because even the wind can just blow them over, and it's raining out.
I love the establishment of how very fragile little baby girl she is. She's so breakable, she's so weak, she's gonna die. But every time someone says that to her, she goes, no, I'm not. Like, her sister is like, you're really weak and this is really dangerous. And she's immediately like, I'm not weak. And then Dana's like, we need to get you out of here. You're really... And she's like, what? Are you gonna say I'm weak? Like, yeah, girl, you are. You have, like, a disease that makes you more fragile. Just accept it. You could still be powerful in other ways. Like, I don't know what the author is trying to say about, like, long-term illness and things like this, but I don't think she's saying anything, to be quite honest, because what is happening? Like, she is physically weak, and she talks about it a lot, and then when people say it to her face, she goes, no, I'm not. And then she makes dumb decisions, like when they are scuffling or whatever on the sparring pad, and the girl is like, do you yield? And she goes, no, I can't let them know I'm weak. It's like, girl, you're gonna get your arm snapped anyway. So why don't you just say, yes, I yield, and then you don't get your arm snapped? Like, you're gonna look weak either way. Whether you lose or you get your arm wrecked and you're losing. Doesn't make sense, girl. Doesn't make sense. What's up with Jack? Who hurt this boy? Why is he so evil? He's just, like, innately evil. Like, he is bad. He's just like, I'm gonna murder everyone. He throws a random kid off the bridge. That kid did nothing to him. He's immediately out to kill Violet. Why? And then she holds a knife to his balls. That was sort of funny, that moment. But for some reason, she doesn't have the guts to do it, and then lets him come anyway, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you. And she's like, okay, bye. And then he doesn't immediately try anything, which I'm like, did he get distracted? Like, why is he not trying to kill her anymore? I don't know. Because we kept talking about how, oh, you gotta watch your back when you sleep, like, you gotta be really careful, like, when you go to bed, like, people are gonna come after you. And then for some reason, the author time jumps. They go to bed, they have meals, I guess, they have breakfast and dinner, we don't see any of it, and all of a sudden, we're at class. And I was like, girl, we're going to class now? This is a school? What's happening? Our girl Violet is also reciting rules at people literally all the time. I'm like, girl, shut up. No one wants to hear the textbook memorization of the rules. Like, you sound so ridiculous right now. Girl, like, stop. So now we got chapter 3, enter Dane. We love Dane. He's the hot, safe man from her childhood. We know he's going to be the backup man. I'm assuming there's going to be a love triangle. I'm assuming we're going to end up with Xaden. I'm pretty positive that's how it goes. I have seen people talking about Xaden and Violet online. So I already know, guys. The jig is up. I know that she's gonna end up with Xaden. But is she gonna have fun with Dane first? We'll find out together. I love that immediately he's like, oh my god, are you hurt anywhere? Why are you here? And she's like, haha, I'm here because my mom made me. And he's like, we gotta send you back. And she's like, I can't. I just told you my mom made me. And he's like, I'm gonna send you back. And she's like, you're not listening. So I don't really like Dane, I'm not gonna lie. He's very, like, overly protective, but not coming from the best place, I feel like. Dare I say it. Also, I love that he's like, okay, we'll go up to my room so you could wrap your knee, but you're not supposed to be up here. And she's like, oh, I'll just pretend we're sleeping together, and then it'll be fine, because I guess that's not breaking the rules. That makes no sense. No sense. This military school makes no sense. There's no rules. And then we find out that apparently the dragons all have, like, a magic attached to them. So when you bond with your dragon, you're also getting magical powers. You can open doors. It's basically like prestidigitation. You could use a pen instead of a quill, which I thought was really funny. She's very excited about this. You could open doors, and you could do a few other weird little things, like make yourself faster. And then sometimes you also get superpowers from it. So her mom is bonded with a dragon that allows her to control storms, and Dane has a really cool power where he could read your mind, but only if he's touching your temples, which I think is arguably not a good power. Because could you imagine you're like trying to be subtle about it, and you're like, hey girl, what if I just like, he's just gonna touch your forehead in the middle of a conversation. It's like so random. Like, okay, like if they're hanging out and they're like being intimate or something, sure, he could like rub her hair behind her ear or something like that. But like going up to a random person and being like, hey, like that makes no sense. I also loved, we got another backstory scene where Dane is like, oh, do you remember that time that we were both military children and how we used to move around a lot, but we would go into the rivers? Super specific. Weird little backstory. Okay, sure. Why did he say that to her face? So weird. That was so weird. Like, has a human ever talked like that? Like, have you ever gone up to someone and been like, hey, do you remember that time we spent our entire childhood together doing this one really specific thing? Ha ha ha! Do you remember? Like, weird. What? I'm also starting to get annoyed with the author about Rhiannon, her best friend, supposedly, where Rhiannon so far hasn't really had any personality development and is sort of just an object for Violet to use. And I really hate that, because so far, all that's happened is, well, they switched shoes, so there was that weird moment. I don't really know why Violet offered to do that to this random stranger. Guess it shows that she's nice. But then after that, Rhiannon immediately trusts her and is like, okay, I'll go do this thing for you. She goes and asks to be put in Dane's club or squad together, so her and Dane could go off together by themselves. Then Rhiannon offers to go get some items for her while she goes and talks to Dane. Then Rhiannon asks a question for her because Violet doesn't want to draw attention to herself, which doesn't work anyway. Then what else does Rhiannon do? She's also been like an object to explain plot stuff. So, to explain some military jargon, randomly Violet turns to Rhiannon and is like, oh, a squadron is a blah 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 blah. So like explaining to the reader, to us. So far Rhiannon has done nothing. She's just an object to be used to move the plot along, and I hate that. It's lazy writing, but it's also terrible for Rhiannon. Rhiannon could be a really cool character, but so far she's doing nothing. I also don't like that all of the squad names are dragon body parts, so they're like, we're the dragon's tail, squadron 4. We're the dragon claws. Like, what is that? I hate that. Also, why is she in Dane's squadron and then the squad leader's like, you're in Xaden's now? That's not how a military works, I don't think. Like, they're just like, oh, we're just gonna move the little squadrons around because Xaden wanted you. So, like, why? And it's not like, I don't think Xaden outranks Dane, because aren't they both squadron leaders? So wouldn't they both be equal? I also don't understand. So when they're in the big courtyard and Xaden's giving this speech about like, you guys made it, and everyone goes, woo, crowd cheers. Why are they cheering? That's so strange. And then the whole time she's like, but I stayed silent because I thought of all the people dying that have died today, all 70 people. Like, okay, girl, you're the only one with sympathy. We get it. Sure. Then chapter 4, we skip some time, and now we have classes. Who knew? What's going on? I also didn't like, there was a line that was like, it was 24 hours and 1 night. Girl, there is a night in 24 hours. 24 hours is a full day. What does that mean? But I don't understand why we skipped so much time. That didn't really make too much sense to me. And then the end of chapter 4 was so bizarre because it ends with her and Dane are talking in that little alcove, and then they come out of the alcove and Xaden notices them, and immediately Dane like makes it known that he's protecting her, and then he goes, run, and then the chapter ends.
What happened? Did she get attacked? She just ran into class, I guess? They all run into class? And Xaden, like, didn't touch her? That doesn't make sense. So then chapter 5 starts, and they're in class, and she goes to history class, but also battle strategies, and the battle strategies class is crazy because they are telling all of these random students, like, important current information about the war. Like, this is why you guys aren't winning, because you have no secrecy. Why are you telling these random students everything that's happening? That makes no sense. Like, that's a security risk. And then they're also like, okay, ask me questions. That's a horrible teacher. And like, I don't think any of the questions they ask are particularly good or strategic. So we're starting to learn more about the dragon griffin like battle that's been happening for millennia. But it doesn't really make too much sense to me because apparently dragons are super, super powerful, have magic, and create force fields. But then griffins, if I'm correct, are like half lion, half eagle creatures, which I think are way smaller than these dragons, unless the dragons are really tiny. I don't know. And then we have sparring, and Jack kills another person, surprise, surprise, and he's not punished at all. And then you know who's also not punished? Imogen, who is fighting Violet and literally, like, rips her arm out of the socket. And apparently that's just fine. There's no punishments in the school at all. Literally no punishment. So that's only been the first 5 chapters so far. I'm loving it. If you couldn't tell, I have a lot of criticisms, but I love how ridiculous it is. And I love tearing apart a fantasy novel. So I'm having a great time, and I'm doing book club with my friends, and we decided to make bingo sheets. So I've made my little bingo sheet. Here it is. These are things based off of just the first 5 chapters that I've read that I think are going to happen. Some of them are just like really out there because I like if you do a really specific one and then it comes true, it's like the best and it's more fun that way. From what I understand, I'm sort of thinking, I don't know if it's going to be in this book or the next one, but I think the mom is going to die. I also think the sister will die or at least be like kidnapped or something like that. I have a feeling in the next book either Dane or Xaden dies because I feel like I've seen people freaking out about a death in the second book, but I didn't write that in this one. Then, yeah, obviously I think there's gonna be some romance with her and Xaden, but I think she's probably gonna have a romance with Dane first. It's just a debate of how that happens. And since he could read minds, I have a feeling he's gonna like read her mind and then be like, you slept with Xaden? Or something like that. There'll be big drama there. I also have a feeling that Dane is really gonna go downhill because he's gonna get like really petty jealous. He's gonna be upset that she's with Xaden. She's gonna be like, I'm trying to protect you. And she's like, you literally have never tried to protect me. I also think since she's so weak and like incapable of doing things, I think the only way to like solve that is that she's gonna get paired with like a really powerful and or really big dragon. And yes, the first years aren't supposed to be paired with dragons, but I think either she's gonna be an exception, it's gonna be a big deal that she's chosen, or they had previously mentioned that people are becoming enlisted early and earlier, and I'm thinking maybe the first years are all going to be paired up with dragons and sent out like very early on. And then maybe the rest of the book will be them doing battle stuff. I also have a feeling we're going to have a little spicy little sparring moment because I feel like that's pretty obvious. I think there's also going to be some sort of like Xaden moment where he like protects her and either he's like annoyed with himself that he did it or she's like shocked he protected her and that's how we find out that like he loves her or whatever. And or, since she's in his squad, I think there will be some sort of thing maybe down the line when they're, like, fighting somewhere or something, and, like, she protects him or he protects her, and it's some sort of drama because they're in the same squad and, like, she didn't listen to him or something like that. Those are all the predictions I have so far. I'm gonna go keep reading.
I have things to say. It's been, 2 days since... I am reading this as with a book club, so I'm trying to read it a little bit slower than normal, but I'm trying my best. It's not going very well. I am invested. So last we checked in, I was just at chapter 5, and I was really not vibing. I still have an immense amount of problems with the writing style in this book. However, I have things to say, and I've taken immense amount of notes, so I will be reading off of my notes a little bit to remind me what's going on. I'm now at chapter 30. I'm planning on finishing tonight, so I will be checking in tomorrow and then immediately starting Iron Flame. I wouldn't say I love this book, but it is delicious, so I'll give it to you guys, BookTok. You guys did it. You did it. I didn't trust you because there's been reasons, but you guys did it. I am digging this. We left off with chapter 5, so now in chapter 6, I'm predicting that Xaden's power is going to be healing because she breaks all the time, basically. She's fragile, she's weak, whatever. So I'm predicting Xaden's power is going to be healing. I do later change my prediction to be mind reading, which is not completely wrong. We'll get into that later. But first off, I find out that Brennan was a mender. He was a healer. And I'm like, oh, like, that's so sad. We love finding out about Brennan's little past. I think he's gay. I still don't understand why she's so insistent that people can't know she's injured, that people can't heal her. There's this whole thing where Dana's like, Nolan can't heal her, like, but he has before. And I don't understand why she thinks being healed is being weak, because to me, if you leave your arm broken, that makes you weaker. If you leave a gashing wound open, that makes you weaker. You might as well heal it faster so you could get back on your feet faster. I don't understand why she thinks that's weak, because I think it's pretty obvious that, like, if you're injured, people are going to see that you're injured, and that makes you weaker. But then if you heal it, then you're stronger. I don't understand why she's so insistent on this, and she does it throughout the whole book, and it drives me nuts. It makes no sense. Apparently Nolan is old, and he has healed her before many times. So this is like the first person we come across who is old and paired with a dragon and still has powers and whatnot. So I'm a little confused by that, because I feel like it's been established that a lot of the writers don't reach elderly age, and most people die before retirement age. So we are already meeting one, and we'll meet a second person in the next chapter. So that sort of makes me feel like maybe it is pretty easy to get old as a writer. I don't know, like, I feel like those 2 points don't correlate with what we've been told. Like, obviously, okay, those are only 2 people out of, like, thousands. I'm sure many writers are dying and whatnot, but it still feels like, oh, we're meeting people left and right who are elderly or old and have retired and or are still hanging out but, like, not dying, and still have writers. But I don't understand, and still have dragons, which I also don't understand, because I feel like, why would the dragons want to pair with people if they know that their dragon skills are only going to be used on base type of thing? Like, yes, obviously, to have a functioning army, you can't just have the people attacking. You need to have the background people who plan and teach the kids and run the military and whatnot and heal. You can't all be the frontline battle people scoring the goals. Like, that's not how it works. But I also feel like, do the dragons know that? Are the dragons upset that they're paired with somebody whose skills are not frontline stuff? I have a lot of confusion about the whole dragon bonding situation, and why dragons would even want to bond with humans in the first place, but also why humans are willing to die enough just to even have a small, minuscule chance of even being able to do dragon riding. It does not make sense to me. Dane wants her out of the riding program so badly. Like, he sucks. At this part, I already don't like Dane, and my hate for him grows stronger with every chapter. I don't understand, like, were we ever supposed to like him? Because he's so unlikable, and I don't really feel like Rebecca Yarros built up that at all. Like, I don't like him. I hate him. He was never a good choice. And then I got really confused at this point about the whole, like, squad leader, like, chain of command thing. I thought Dane and Xaden were, like, equal rank, but apparently Xaden is a wing leader and Dane is only a squad leader or something. And there's a squad leader which is under the group leader, which is under the wing leader, or something like that. So I have finally figured it out, but I was very confused, because essentially Xaden is the wing leader, and then Garrick is the group, I don't know what it's called, fire group or whatever, the claw, fire, tail, whatever. And then Dane is, like, their squad, which I guess is, like, 6 people or something. Very confusing. I do not understand it. I don't understand how the sparring was, like, an assignment, because what are they grading them on? Why is Jack able to, like, kill people? Like, I don't know what's going on. Why? And this is where we get to the juicy politics of it all. Why did they conscript all of the kids of the rebels? That's, like, a key gateway into making, like, more rebels, is, like, forcing the children to do something, like, they're punished because of what their parents did. That's, like, classic sci-fi, classic fantasy problem. Every dystopian world, like, if your parents were bad and now you are forced to go do this thing, like, you will become bad because now you're pissed off at the government for forcing you into this terrible situation. Like, why would they do that? And then Dane leaves her. He's like arguing that she needs to leave, arguing that she like shouldn't suffer, but whatever. He's trying to follow all these dumb rules. And then he just leaves her in the surgery room to bear all the pain by herself. He's not a good friend. I don't understand how we are supposed to like him at all. And at the very end of the chapter, we get Brennan's journal. Brennan's journal is definitely going to be so important. I'm so convinced. And you know what? It is, because then it continues to be the weird little chapter quotes before each chapter. I feel like it's such a lazy way for a writer to involve some sort of like some sort of world building without like actually just world building in the plot. Like instead it's like, okay, now you have to follow this meta story that's like little quotes before each chapter, and obviously each quote at the beginning of the chapter is so evidently directly related to the chapter we're about to read, and it feels so dumb. Like, I'm just like, I don't need this weird little quote. And I feel like authors always try to make the little quotes, the fake little quotes, be like something really inspiring and impactful, and it's like a really punchy little sentence. There's like, they clearly were like, ooh, that's a good one, I'm gonna put that right before this, and I'm like, it's not that good and it's not that clever. It drives me nuts. Anyway, we're on to chapter 7. Suddenly, there's a time jump. This begins my series of absolutely hating the way she writes time. And I do not understand why she is constantly jumping in time throughout this book. It makes no sense. So suddenly, we're near a river. And it's a couple days later, I guess, because she was just in surgery. And I understand, okay, we're not going to get whole gritty, gory detail of like, okay, we put her arm back in the socket, and then it's like, okay, now she sleeps for a bit. Now she goes back to the dorm. She sleeps in the dorm for a bit. Then she wakes up and has breakfast. Then she goes to lunch. Then she goes to class, whatever. Like, I don't need a play-by-play of the entire day, but I at least need some sort of transition from, okay, we're in the hospital bed, and all of a sudden she's at a river. I'm like, what is she doing? We have no idea why she's here. And apparently she's finding poison. I don't know why. Like, what is going on? And it's like, okay, throwback to, she had a book of poisons that we mentioned in like the first chapter, and suddenly this is now relevant again. She has not talked about this at all. So now she's poisoning people, which my friend in our book club did predict out of the blue. She was like, ooh, you know what would be good if she starts like taking out competition by poisoning them. And I was like, that's never gonna happen. Well, she was right. And I was wrong. So she's climbing a tree and she's trying to find different poisonous substances, and she's complaining that she's wearing a cloak and the cloak keeps getting stuck in the tree. I don't understand why she doesn't just take the cloak off and then climb the tree, but I guess it's a good thing that she didn't, because then guess what? All of the rebel kids come and stand right under her tree by happenstance. That's crazy. So it's a good thing she left the cloak on, because I guess it hides her better. This then, like, concludes to make me feel like we're reading the wrong story, because the conscripted rebel children have such a more interesting story going on. Like, she is coming from such a place of privilege, and, like, sure, she's also forced to be conscripted and whatever, and so we get, like, that type of storyline, but, like, all of these conscripted kids are way more interesting than Violet. They just are. And I feel so bad for them, and like they're having all these prejudiced moments where like people are hating on them for literally no reason, and we're slowly finding out about them as the book goes on, but I don't know. But I also, like, why is Violet sitting in the tree admiring Xaden when so far all she's done is like hate him, and then she's like, oh, but he's hot, and look, he leads people well. What is going on? I also love that one kid who's like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And then Xaden's like, well then die, I guess. An icon. I love him. And this is like the point when I think I was like immediately on board with Xaden. I was like, I don't know what's going on in this book, but that was really funny. Also, she like thinks it's a coup, but they're literally just like trauma bonding and like trying to help each other out because they're in this terrible situation. Also, we love Garrick because he says, if the mom is bad, it doesn't mean the kid is bad. AKA, Violet's mom is horrible, but that doesn't mean Violet's bad. He gets it. He gets it. He's like, we're in the same situation, guys. Come on. Like, let's be nice to Violet. Then we find out that the mom's full name is Lilith. And if that doesn't guarantee that she's evil, I don't know what does. We also find out that Xaden commands shadows because, of course, she climbs down the tree when she thinks it's safe, and it's not because he's hiding there. Of course. Also, his shadow power is very cool. So at this point, when I find out that he does shadows, I'm like, oh, okay, so her power has to be something with light, because opposites attract. You know how these fantasy books go. And I'm right, but like not exactly. Lightning is sort of light, you know? Then we have a really weird sentence about, she's like, oh, did my perfume give me away? That's always how it is in fantasy books with the heroines. I was like, what are we talking about? I guess this is just like a throwback to the fact that she likes to read, but it was the weirdest sentence. I was like, what is going on? And then the fact that he just goes, oh, what? Yeah, sure. I was like, what is happening? Every interaction they have is like so cringy weird, but I also love it. Then his shadows have hands. His shadows have hands. I was like, girl, this is definitely coming back for a smutty scene. Like, I know it's coming back. A weird little moment where he stops breathing because he looks at her hair. I love that. Don't know what's happening, but I love it. I also don't understand why she's like, I won't tell anyone. And he's just like, okay, I believe you. I don't know why he believes her. Like, he has no reason to trust her or anything. He just, like, immediately believes her and is like, you owe me one. And, like, we love a little owing trope. I don't know what you'd call that, but delicious. Love that. Now we're at chapter 8. Yet again, I feel like Rebecca Yarros just randomly remembers that she is a new adult romantasy book and is allowed to talk about sex in her books and just randomly throws it in. So chapter 8 starts with some really weird random conversations about sex, and I was like, we've just been talking about death and fantasy stuff for ages, and now all of a sudden they're like, let's talk about it. I'm like, what is going on? And just talking about how other people are having sex in the dorms. I was like, is this a hostel? This sucks. Like, I feel so bad for them. Like, no. Suddenly it's August. I'm not really sure what year or month or anything it was at the very beginning of the book, but now starts the trend of Rebecca Yarros naming the month that they're in randomly in different chapters, which is sort of helpful, I guess, since the times are all like a mess with how she time jumps all the time. But at the same time, I feel like it's really jarring for just there to be a random sentence that's like, it's August now, we go to the battlefield. I'm like, what is going on? So apparently it's August. I think the beginning of the book starts in like May, June, July, beginning of summer, because that's like how it seems to be going. The plot is like one full year almost. But I'm sure there's an answer somewhere out there, but I didn't pick up on it. So apparently we're in August now. I also feel like we just randomly start talking about all these different things that they have to go do, the gauntlet, the threshing, and none of it's explained, which I guess is fine. We as the reader eventually figure out what's going on, but it's just like, it doesn't make sense. We're just suddenly talking about the threshing all the time, and I'm like, what the hell is the threshing? I don't know. Like, what is going on? And this is where we finally have, like, an actual good callback. She talks about, like, getting breakfast duty before because she was like, oh, I wake up really early, so it just makes sense that I'll just go do breakfast duty. And now we find out, oh, she wants to do breakfast duty so she can poison people, which sort of makes sense, but also doesn't, because how do you know which exact bowl is going to which person if you're just, like, spooning out the slop in a normal cafeteria situation? I don't know. Whatever. This is what she does. This is where we finally have some mention of gay people. Love that. We do have representation in this book. I also don't understand. We've completely forgotten about her shoulder and her knee now. I guess they're fine. We're just moving on. And then she's having conversations with people and she just starts randomly bringing stuff up. Like she said, like Brennan, and she's talking about like Xaden's approach to things. And I'm like, what do they have to do with this? Like Xaden has never given her advice, and, like, we have no idea that Brennan has told her anything. I almost feel like we're, like, missing things. Like, did the editor cut out stuff? I really don't think there was an editor for this book, but whatever. And then suddenly, Dane is cradling her face, and, like, are they dating? Like, what? He's walking her to class all the time. Like, I don't understand this weird relationship when, like, Dane sucks, and he's just, like, touching her face all the time, and I'm like, okay, you were best friends in childhood, but, like, you guys are completely different now, and he sucks. So they're already talking about meeting dragons, which I don't really understand, because at the beginning, we were told that, like, everyone is gonna die before year 2, like, more than half people. So then it's like, why are we gonna go meet the dragons now if, like, more than half of them are gonna be dead already? I feel like that's wasting the dragon's time, and also yours, but whatever. This is another thing where I get confused about, like, the year 1 versus year 2 thing, because it sort of seems like it comes in later that they go through the whole gauntlet threshing thing, and it's only October. So by October, I guess they're considered year 2s already? I don't know. What's going on? There's apparently fewer dragons this year than normal. There's only about 100, which means there's more competition. Of course, gotta raise the stakes. And we find out that the dragons only talk to their bonded, which is weird. And I have many more questions about this whole dragon war thing in the first place. Like, how did the dragons start this? I guess they chose people originally and they were like, okay, now that we're bonded, I gotta tell you, you gotta fight for us because we're now going into war. Like, what? I need to know, like, the origin story of this whole world because I feel like none of it makes sense. This is where we also start learning about the dragons. So we find out that Xaden's is, of course, the rarest. He's got a cool blue one. Then we start talking about dragon law. What the hell is dragon law? Which we'll later find out no one knows what dragon law is. I hate this book. Then we also find out that dragons are forbidden from bonding with relatives of their previous owners. Why? Well, like, why? Is it to prevent like a hierarchy thing happening? Like a monarchy of like, oh, my father inherited this dragon from his father and his father had this but also like cousins and stuff? Because apparently Xaden's dragon's previous bonded mate was his cousin or something, but yet the dragon mated with him anyway. So honestly, there is no law anyway, which seems pretty accurate because there's no rules in any of this dragon riding stuff, it seems like. And then of course Xaden's is the most powerful of powerfuls, but wait, we find out that no, it's not. The black dragons are even more powerful. And this is another thing that Rebecca Yarros does multiple times that drives me nuts. She'll describe something as really, really powerful, and you go, okay, cool. And then she goes, but actually this one is even more powerful. Then don't describe them that way. That doesn't make sense. And then we're talking about Xaden's dragon's name, and I thought we weren't supposed to know the dragon's names. I thought only the bonded people were supposed to know your dragon's name. Like, no one else is supposed to know it. Which I do understand becomes a problem if you're trying to talk about a certain dragon. How do you talk about it? Do you just say, the blue one, or your blue dragon? But whatever. Apparently, people do know the dragon names, because people say them all the time, but I guess maybe it's only the nickname. Like, her dragon's name is way longer, but everyone just calls him Terran. So I guess that's how it works. They're all calling the nicknames of the dragons. So I don't know. But it seemed like the dragon names were supposed to be really powerful and like only certain people get to know them. But then that's not what happens anyway. Because also, eventually, when she does get her dragon, we find out that she immediately has to go and write down the names of the dragon with her name. So that person also knows the name of the dragon, and it's in all their archives. So then the dragon names are not secret. But we find out that her mom bonded with a black dragon, which is one of the most rare of the rarest. And then there's only one other out there that's even bigger and even badder than her mom's dragon. And so I immediately know which dragon she's going to get. It's obviously that one. Come on. Then we find out about signet powers and how they are a result of a unique chemistry between the rider and the dragon. So it's very different. If you bonded with different dragons, you get different powers, whatever. However, they don't explain the whole explosion manifesting thing now. I don't know why she doesn't mention that. I feel like that's sort of a key thing to talk about, but we talk about it later, so I guess that's fine. But then I don't understand, like, that must mean all of the professors are bonded to dragons, but then, like, they aren't doing, like, dragon things, they're just teaching. They're using, like, illusion magic to make their PowerPoint presentations and whatever the hell. But then it's like, what is their dragon doing? Just, like, hanging out in the field all day? So the previous black dragon rider had a siphoning, stealing people's powers trick. So then I was like, that's pretty sick. And I sort of feel like that's what her power is going to be. They mention a couple more sentences later where she like is next to Xaden and she feels like she's siphoning his power. And I'm like, okay, I think this is going to be her power, but we'll see. And then we get the whole story that the previous rider burnt out because he died trying to save Brennan because Brennan died, which is so sad, and I am obviously convinced that they were lovers. But I also think it's foreshadowing. I guess we'll find out. So then I sort of feel like that means that the big black dragon, aka Terran, maybe has a connection to her bloodline now since his previous rider died trying to save Brennan. Now that dragon, Terran, wants to bond with her. because they have that little connection. So now we're sparring again. She's throwing daggers again, and she is poisoning people so that they get sick on the mat, so she wins her matches. I love that Xaden was standing there watching the matches, but then when she comes over, he immediately leaves, and I bet you we're gonna find out later, like, oh, he's like, I left because I didn't want to see you get hurt, or whatever the hell. That one's pretty gross. Didn't love that she's, like, trying to kill him, and then the guy, like, vomits everywhere. That was really gross, disgusting. And yet again, she's like, I don't want to get healed because that'll make me weak. Girl, what are you on about? Now it's September, and here we go. We get some spicy sparring. So if you remember my bingo sheet from earlier, I get that one knocked off because I was correct. And then we're into chapter 9. Chapter 9 starts with a quote that just says, I will not die today, from the Book of Brennan. I thought that was sort of funny because it's like, this is a dumb quote that doesn't help at all, and I don't really know why. I feel like she got bored and didn't know what to write, so she was like, I will not die today. Great quote. So then we got some spicy sparring. He caught her knives in midair. Hot. I don't understand why he keeps calling her violence. It continues throughout the book, and I don't think it's cute. It's gross. It's weird. It's not cute or funny. Then she's like sort of surprised that he's better than her. Like, why would he not be better than her? I don't understand. She's like really weak and doesn't know how to fight, and I feel like it would be obvious that he would be better. I don't understand her thought process. I also thought it was funny that he immediately figures out that she's poisoning people. But I also don't understand, she's like, okay, you've made your point. Like, no, they're in the middle of a fight. Like, you have to finish the fight. You can't just like, okay, you made your point, like, back off. Like, no, you have to finish the battle, or like tap out or whatever. Are you tapping out? And then we time jump cut to her being massaged by Dane in his room. So weird. So now we're finally starting to get some dragon stuff. We find out that the dragons are protecting their hatching ground, which is in the Vale. So that's like sort of maybe why the whole battle and like land stuff is happening. Because I don't understand why dragons would have such a like attachment to like maps and like the lines of what land they own. I understand now that like, okay, they want to protect their sacred hatching grounds, but at the same time, I feel like, can't they just work this out? This massage scene also had some weird, like, location things. I really hate when there are inconsistencies with, like, location. This book does it a lot. I feel like there's a lot of, like, not great fantasy books out there that do things like this, where it's like, I'm reading over here, and then suddenly she's, like, across the room holding him. And I'm like, how'd you get over there? So, in this one, she's laying on the bed, and he's massaging her. She sits up, but then suddenly he's holding her waist and they're standing somewhere. They never said that she stood up, and it bothered me. Now we're on to chapter 10. Jeez, we have so far to go. I have so much to say. Now we're talking about the gauntlet. I'm like, why did all of the other legacy kids know about this and she doesn't? When like literally her entire family is a military family, and the other people are like, oh, I've been practicing for this forever. I'm so excited. And she's like, what is the gauntlet? Well, they start pointing out that she's Dean's pet, and like she gets annoyed, but it's like, you are, girl. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, you are, like, class pet, basically. You suck up to him so much. I don't understand why you're, like, upset that they're calling you out on it. It's obvious. But now they go on to continue to explain what the gauntlet is, and it's literally American Ninja Warrior. I am losing my mind. Every single thing that's described in this scene is an American Ninja Warrior type of thing. So I'm basically just picturing these big red and blue and white, like, the bar thing you have to move, the big balls you have to jump on. Like, how does this have anything to do with dragons? I cannot imagine. And then the last step to get out of the gauntlet is the chimney, the American Ninja Warrior chimney. And guess what? She's too short. This is against short people, is all I have to say. Not again with her reciting textbooks because she's trying to calm herself down, but honestly, she does it really easily, and I feel like that doesn't make sense. So yeah, she's been training for a little bit, but she's supposed to be like really clumsy, weak, not good at doing stuff, and suddenly she's really good at doing this, and she's like, oh my god, it looks so hard, it's gonna be so difficult, and then she immediately does it super easy, and she has no injuries. But then we finally do the gauntlet for real, and this random girl dies. Oh well. Then we get another weird Violet and Xaden interaction. Let's go! Not her saying, that he wouldn't understand being forced to come here. He's literally a conscription kid. What is she on? Oh my god. And we hit chapter 11. So yet again, this is literally American Ninja Warrior, and I've no idea how it's related to dragons. She at one point says like, oh, like the chimney thing is supposed to mimic like scaling a dragon to get onto the dragon's back. How? How is that? What type of dragon looks like a chimney? I don't know. What are you talking about? This is where we also start talking about Heaton, who is a they-them character who uses they-them pronouns. Very exciting, so some more inclusion. Now, we're already down to 171 people. This is where I'm starting to get very confused and shocked. So maybe I am remembering the quote wrong. And so at the beginning when Zayden says, oh, by the end of next summer, is what I thought he said, we'll be down to half of you guys, which is still crazy. Are we not going to talk about the fact that they just kill like 400 people just for this weird dragon rider unit of the military? It's insane. Maybe he meant by the end of this summer and I just read it wrong or remember it wrong, but we're already down to half of the people, which is insane. It's literally been 2 months, maybe 3. And then she's like minorly in pain, but she successfully does the gauntlet. I hate the sentence at the end when they, I think it's Zayden, looks at her and sees that her hands are bleeding and he goes, you're leaking. Fix that. Then we're on to chapter 12. Only 169 people made it. So only 10 people died doing the gauntlet, which is still sort of crazy. Now we're starting to get more dragon details. We find out that dragons are about 25 feet tall, which I think is about the like height of like a house, like 2 stories of a house, 2 floors. It's about 7 meters for my international people, which is honestly a bit smaller than I thought a dragon was. I don't know why. I picture dragons like way, way bigger than that. I like that all the dragons are just sort of lined up on the top of this cliff. In my head, the gauntlet is like basically American Ninja Warrior, but like vertically up the side of this cliff. And then you have a little skinny pathway that they all have to walk along. And then all the dragons are on the one side and it's like a cliff face on the other side. That's what it is in my head. I don't understand why all the dragons are lined up. It seems sort of weird. I also don't think it makes sense because we were earlier found out that like the red dragons, you can't put your back to them, and like the green dragons, you have to like bow and keep eye contact or whatever the hell it is. They all have different rules, but if they're all in a line, how are you supposed to do all the different rules for the different dragons? Because obviously you're gonna have to put your back on one dragon at some point to look at the other dragon, and if there's one red here and there's one red there, like then you'd have to have your back at one of them. Like, that doesn't make sense. We also find out that they are all going to be released in batches to walk along the thing, but they should not walk together because they might be incinerated, and they should keep 7 feet apart. So that's about 2 meters for international people. But also, they're supposed to talk because the dragons want to hear how they get along with each other. So weird. If you're 7 feet apart, that's like standing on the opposite side of a room with someone, but like we're walking single file, so you have your back to someone, you've got to like turn over your shoulder to like yell at them. It's so strange. Also, the conversations they have in this chapter are all about the dragons, which seems really weird because the dragons are sentient and can know what they're saying. Like, it can hear you. I had to switch filming on a different thing because my phone died yet again. So here we are, guys. Then we're suddenly talking about Rhiannon's sister's pregnancy again, which was a very big callback to like chapter 2 or 3, and I did not remember it. I was like, whose pregnancy are we talking about? What is going on? I'm like, okay, finally, we're talking about Rhiannon's sister's pregnancy. Cool. This is later important in like chapter 30 or something like that. So I understand why we're calling back to it, but also at the same time, I was like, this is really random, and we did not like keep the thread of that enough for me to understand what's going on. And there's a little gold dragon, and I was like, okay, that's really cute. Also, that's sort of obvious. I think she's gonna get paired with it, but I also thought she was gonna get the black one. And guess what? I'm right. On both accounts. The little gold dragon is 100% giving Toothless energy, and the cover of the second Toothless movie, like, is this not... This is the book. This is what's happening in this book. I don't understand why the dragons didn't kill Tynan for being a dick, like, he sucked, but they did kill Luca, so that's nice. I was also very excited because the dragons are correct anatomy. It is confirmed they do have 2 sets of legs and then the wings, so they are dragons. Please see this yet again. And then we have this weird little moment where she is the chosen one and the green dragons are all nosying into her and everyone's like, oh my god, is she about to die? And it's like, no, they could just smell that she has dragon scales on her. I don't know why the green ones are the only ones to go smell her out and figure out what's going on, but whatever. Now we're in chapter 13. It's October now. The beginning sentence of chapter 13 is not a full sentence. It says like, October is threshing. That's not a sentence. It should be like, October is the threshing, but whatever. We're moving on. There's now only 147 people left, so we're really narrowing it down. 20 people have died since the gauntlet, I guess. I'm very convinced she's gonna bond with the golden one, but I'm still thinking about the black one. So we have 147 people, but only 100-ish dragons that are willing to bond. So it's gonna be rough. So they're in the forest. This honestly was exciting, but I feel like it wasn't as exciting as it could have been. It was a pretty short chapter. Obviously, the 3 annoying guys are out to get the little golden one and also to kill her. And guess what? She wants to protect the golden one, of course. So they're in the same spot at the same time. Perfect for these 3 guys. And so she defeats them, but Xaden happens to be there to make sure she's okay. This is where I'm a little confused, like what's going on with that, but whatever. She survives, she saves the golden one bonds with her, but also Taryn, the black one, comes down and bonds with her as well, and she's like, holy hell, what the hell's going on? We're in chapter 14. The dragon is really nice and helps her on. We love Taryn. He's such a like curmudgeon. I love all his little like comments on her. Like, she sucks and he comments on it and I love it. I could not get over the fact that there's built-in seats on the dragons. That means that the dragons like evolved to have humans sit on them. That there's a specific pommel and little seat for the human to sit on their back is insane. I also got confused in this part because I thought her sister Mira's dragon was called Taryn, but her sister's dragon is Teen. Very similar, but spelled different. Also, Jack ends up running away because he sucks, and then the other 2 end up dying. Cool. Now she has 2 dragons. They're going to the main battlefield, whatever, to register what's going on. She can't stay on board, so Taryn uses magical seatbelts to keep her on. What? And then she has this conversation with Taryn in her mind where he's like, I chose you because you were smart. And she's like, wow, you could read my mind. And he goes, see, you're smart. You figured it out really quick. How is that smart? We knew that from like the 1st or 2nd chapter. She talks about how the dragons bond with their people and can talk in their minds. I don't understand why this is smart and clever. Yet again, the mom continues to hate her for no reason, and we hate the mom. I don't know what the mom is doing, but the mom is evil. This has been established. Whatever. So she officially bonds with the 2 dragons. She has to go up and say the names to the dragon scribe guy, which I do not understand. This is what I was talking about. I don't understand why everyone knows the names of the dragons, but also only the rider is supposed to know. Whatever. And then they're debating whether or not she's allowed to have 2 because not everyone even gets 1. But it's like, this is, the dragons decide this. You humans have no deal in this. Y'all are puny humans. The dragons do not need you. Yet again, she refuses medical help. I don't know why. Also, her ankle seems to have healed very quickly because she hurt her ankle running through the forest. She like could barely fight, and now all of a sudden she's getting off the dragon and walking around fine. And I guess she's doing okay. Also, her knives magically reappear on her body. She was like throwing them at Jack and the other guys and whatever. And this is the first time I was like, okay, so I guess they must be magic because they're suddenly back on her. Because all the previous times she's used them in like the sparring ring and stuff. So if she's throwing them, I'm sure she could go pick them up and get them again. But now suddenly she's like throwing them in this forest and she still has them. They're still all there. Don't know what's going on. Jack is such a tired plot point. I think he just needs to die, which obviously he eventually does, but like, he's not interesting. He's never been an interesting villain. He's just sort of there and he doesn't do anything. He always threatens, but like he's only in a couple chapters. I really don't understand. Then we also get her dragon is described as the biggest, baddest dragon, but then the general's dragon, which I think is her mom's or maybe the man above her mom's, is then also described as the biggest, baddest dragon, even bigger than hers. So what's the answer? Which one's the biggest? I don't understand. This is where mates are introduced. I hate that. I really hate the idea of mates. It's too like faded to me, and it's like too much like Twilight imprinting. And Twilight imprinting is so weird, and I don't like it. And I wish there to be more like autonomy in the choices these characters make. I don't like the idea of like, oh, they have to be together because everything is set this way. I like it better when it's like, oh, they both really love each other and they're actually meant for each other. Not like the fates said that they are the perfect match. Also, their dragons are bonded and their lives are connected forever, so they might as well be dating. We find out that Dane says, no, I would never break the rules for you. I value the rules above your own life. Sorry. And he sucks. And yet they kiss. What? Why did she think the kiss would even go well? Like, obviously it wouldn't. I'm so glad that she realized, though, that she was like, this is not it. Like, thank God. Then we find out that Xaden is now connected to her, and he is a bodyguard trope. We get a forced proximity trope. At this point, I am fully invested. It is a chapter 16, and I said, yes, I will not put this book down until I am finished, although I did. And we find out that 41 people are unbonded, so she has 41 people that are probably coming for her because she is the coolest dragon and everyone wants her dragon. And apparently, people think that if you kill somebody, that dragon will just be like, oh cool, yeah, I'll bond with you now. That makes no sense. So anyway, they kiss. We also find out that the dragons go off to their little legal council and come back, and we find out that the dragons' council is called the Empyrean, which she says, this is a new thing. The scribes would love to know what it's called. I'm like, how is this a new thing? And why would they accidentally let that slip to you? That makes no sense, girl. And then she gets a tattoo. I hate fantasy tattoos. I think they're so dumb. But I picture them as like black and white, like terrible line art of a cartoon dragon on her back. But whatever, we're moving on. I always feel like the tattoos are always like forced, and they're like, oh, I didn't really want a tattoo, but I'm forced to get this tattoo, and I do sort of like it. Like, I hate that. Now it's chapter 17. We've only been here for like 2-3 months, and suddenly they have dragons and have their own rooms. Like, I thought that was a second year thing. I thought that was established in the beginning of the book, that it was a second year thing to get your own room and to get dragons. So I'm so confused. Rhiannon is bi, and we love that. Also, Imogen is also queer. Queer representation, guys. The mind speak is not my favorite thing, but it does turn out to be sort of funny, so like, I'm fine with it. I also hate that there's a gym in my fantasy world. It doesn't feel fantasy at all. Like, she's like, okay, Imogen said we have to go lift weights. Lift weights in my fantasy world? No, you gotta go like lift swords or something to get strong. I don't understand why she's jealous of Imogen and Xaden because she thinks they're dating, when Imogen literally like a page ago just told her that she has a girlfriend that she is dating, probably exclusively. I don't understand. Then in chapter 18 we get some signing representation. This is so exciting for me. I feel like only recently have I read a few books that have people that sign in them, and I think that's such a like missed out representation in books. There's so much disability diversity that we're really missing in books, so I was really excited about this. I don't love the way Rebecca Yarros does it. I recently read the Magnus Chase books that have people who sign in them, and I thought it was really well done in his books, although Rick Riordan just does diversity so well, I feel like. Then yet again we have more time jumps. Suddenly she's in a library. Suddenly she's in a library and she's on library duty. I don't understand why she doesn't have any transition sentences or like anything leading up to this. I had no idea. Like, all of a sudden she's doing library duty. What is library duty? Why is she doing it? What's going on? And then we get hungry girl syndrome, which I feel like there's like this trope in fantasy novels where the girl starts off as super weak, super scrawny, super malnutritious, whatever, and then as the book goes on she is now forced to work out, forced to do this regiment, and becomes extremely hungry and strong, and I hate that trope that happens in this. Also, apparently her hunger is connected to her dragon's hunger. I don't know. Then she asks for a fable book at the library and they can't find it anywhere, and this is where I am like, why was she so set on bringing books in the very beginning if she could literally go to this library whenever she wants and ask for books? I don't understand why she needed to bring those books. I love reading, but it's like, if this is life or death and you have to carry your entire life over the wall, why are you bringing books? They're so heavy. Thought she brought the fable book with her, but apparently she only brought the poison book. She left the fable book there, but her sister took it and later gives it to her. But I knew this fable book would be important. I wrote it down in my bingo thing. So this is where we find out that if they don't manifest their magic by a certain point, they explode. They're literally walking time bombs. And I don't understand, this is mentioned a lot in the next couple chapters, but it's never like fully discussed, like the ramifications of if the student randomly explodes in the middle of class and could take out a whole bunch of other people. I don't understand. So now it's November. And then we have the mind reader scene. This was crazy. So I had originally thought that Xaden's power, which was gonna be mind reading, which it sort of is. We'll get to that. But this one kid apparently has mind reading. He comes into the middle of the courtyard. He's freaking out because he can suddenly hear everybody's thoughts, right? And so Xaden comes up and he's like, start thinking about your textbooks, girly. Like, don't let him into your mind. And I was like, ooh, hot. Also weird. But apparently mind reading is illegal, and so the teacher immediately comes out and snaps the kid's neck. What is going on? But also, why is Dane allowed to have mind reading? I guess because his is like more controlled and limited, like he has to touch someone by their forehead, like, but still, crazy. And then all of a sudden, it cuts because she wakes up from the dream, and she's being attacked, and her dragon has warned her to wake up. And this is one of my favorite chapters. Chapter 19 is delicious. It's so hot. It's so spicy without actually being spicy, but I loved it. So she wakes up, and there's 7 people who have broken into her room who are trying to kill her to get her dragon, which, yet again, it doesn't make sense, but we're moving on. And she is able to survive the first attack, which is great, and then she has her knives, so she's able to kill 3. Well, I guess maim 3, because she doesn't kill people until later. But she maims 3 people. Great. And then she's able to hold them off long enough that Xaden is able to run and save her. But then we get Adarna's power, which is stopping time, which is crazy. And she's able to stop time just long enough to escape from the clutches of Orin, where she was about to die, and end up like next to Xaden, and he's like, the hell? But then he kills all the people really quickly with his shadow magic, and then he searches her and is so hot. He is protective, he is bursting down her door, he is grabbing clothes for her to put on, he is killing everyone for her, he is undoing her corset to check for injuries, he still doesn't believe her, he wants to see her injuries, he gets a little upset even though her injuries are minor. He brushes her hair off her shoulder, and then he steals her away and reads her mind. And then he is ballsy to the dragons because he doesn't care. He just needs to protect her. Hot. Is that too much to ask for? Is that too much? We find out that Adarna is actually a baby dragon, and baby dragons are not supposed to bond. I feel like that was supposed to be a big surprise, but it really wasn't. I feel like sort of obvious that she's really small, that she couldn't fly well, that she doesn't have claws, that she's a baby, but whatever. So we find out that she's a baby, and it's a little bonded family. So cute. But also, what the hell is going on? So apparently Violet is bonded to Terran, is bonded to Skeagle. I don't know how to say the name. Let me look that up.
Skeagle, apparently that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. Someone pointed out yesterday that it's really similar to the Gaelic word skal, which means shadow. Tarnanach. And in the book it's quite often shortened to Tarn. And Darn Uram. And Darn Uram.
According to pronunciation.com, Skeagle. And Violet's dragon is Tarnanach. I'm not very good at Scots Gaelic, but I did look it up. And so Violet's dragon, Tarnanach, Tarn, is mated to Xaden's dragon, Skeagle, who's obviously bonded to Xaden, and then they have the baby that they adopted, Adarna. So they're all like a little family, which is really cute. But then Xaden has this whole theory that if she dies, then Tarn dies, then Skeagle dies, then Skeagle dies, and then Xaden would die. So like they'll all die. If one of them dies, they're all screwed because they're all connected. But then this pisses me off because then we start chapter 20 and it immediately time jumps again. Why? So we never find out what happens at the rest of that night. She's hanging out with Xaden. I feel like this is like interesting information, interesting character development we're getting, but it just cuts off. We don't know what happens. Does she go back to sleep? Does he sleep at the foot of her bed? Does he sleep in the hallway? Do they not sleep because now they're freaked out and they just immediately go to class? Like, I don't understand. We time jump, and she's used to attacks now, I guess. She needs a bodyguard, so I don't really know why she's being rebellious, but Xaden has assigned Liam to her. We love Liam. He's great. But Liam is now assigned to sleep next door in the room next to her. I don't really understand how that helps too much because I feel like if she were attacked again, A, how would Liam get in the room since he like doesn't have the magic to get the door open, but B, how would he hear her unless she's like screaming, which I feel like it would be too late. And then Dane knows that the dragons are mated as well. So is this common knowledge or not? I feel like this is a consistent problem that I don't understand. Like, does everyone know that by attacking her, they're also attacking Xaden? I don't really know. It's confusing and never explained. And then she had told Xaden that there was this third-year girl who broke into her room and let the other people in, but got away. So then Xaden is like, well, we gotta publicly execute her at the big parade. So he does, and nobody's believing him, or she thinks people won't believe her. I don't know. So she asks her dragon to project her memory to everyone in the room. Didn't know that was a thing. Guess that's sort of cool, but what's going on? I don't know. Dane's being awful. What else is new? So she does that, and then like, oh look, the consequences of her own actions. This now convinces everyone, oh okay, well then that was true. We have to kill this girl. And she goes, no, don't kill the girl. What did she think was gonna happen? I don't understand. So I guess all the dragons talk telepathically. I still don't really understand how that works. Obviously, they speak telepathically to their bonded mate, but, like, they speak telepathically between each other. But then I don't understand, like, does that mean they could always hear each other's thoughts at all times? Because then I feel like, wouldn't they be able to hear each other's thoughts and then by proxy hear all of the mated, bonded humans' thoughts? And then, like, if something bad was happening, couldn't they just, like, immediately know and tell their own human, everybody else's secrets? Like, I don't understand. Then we get chapter 21. Liam has a little crush on Jessina, the girl in the library, so it's really cute. But we literally never come back to it. But this is where I'm like, okay, so our girl Violet, like, really literally knows nothing. Because she starts having a conversation with Liam about the whole conscription thing. And he's like, if we're a rebel's child, we're obviously all have to be conscripted, and we have to conscript into the rider unit, which I thought was obvious and I thought we knew at the beginning. So I don't know why she's shocked by this and doesn't know this, but like, it was obvious. But then she asks about his family, and he says that his mom was a rebel and was killed, but that his dad was also killed, and it's sort of implied that it's because Liam himself was supposed to be killed for being a rebel or something, but his dad sacrificed and took his place instead, which I don't understand, because Liam would have been like 6 or something, and I thought they just decided that all the rebel children would be conscripted. So I don't understand what's going on with that, but whatever, we're moving on. They were all raised in an orphanage. Liam was raised in an orphanage with Xaden. That's why they're such good buds. Great to know. This is good backstory. Cool. But then we also find out that, like, Brennan was the general previously, and now the mom sort of took it over. I feel like I read that wrong. That doesn't really make sense to me. But we find out, in total, there's 107 rebellion kids. This comes back later. Then she's a little shocked that Xaden never told her any of this. Why would he? They're not friends. They barely know each other. And then we basically confirm that she has sympathy, and all of the other scribes and healers and other infantry members have sympathy, but the riders have no sympathy. I don't know why. I feel like they're just humans, they should have sympathy, but for some reason they're all evil and they suck. She's consistently flipping Xaden off all the time. It's so petty. Like, girl, why? Why are you doing that? Are you flirting? Like, what is that? And then we find out that the winner of this new next battle that they're going to have gets to go to the front lines. I don't understand why they're all excited about this. It's literally like, oh, you get a front row ticket to death, guys. You might die. If you win, you could die faster. Which Rhiannon points out. And I'm like, yes, Rhiannon gets it. She's the only real one in this. Like, why is everyone else excited about this? I don't understand. It's not a reward. Then they're in battle class, and she's shocked that they're talking about an old battle and not, like, the current one that she just happens to eavesdrop on and see in the scroll. Why is she surprised that they're keeping confidential information from the students who are not in the actual military yet? I already didn't understand why in the military class they were given, like, current confidential information. That, like, does not make sense. But then we also have this whole conversation about, apparently once upon a time, the dragons and the griffins used to fight together to defeat the barons. What the hell are the barons? And also, why are the dragons and griffins fighting now? There's so many holes in this plot. Then we're in chapter 22. It's December now. Okay, sure. And we get shirtless Xaden at the sparring ring. Let's go! Her and Xaden start having this conversation in the middle of the room. Everyone's watching. Why are they doing this in the middle of the room? I don't know. But she literally, like, has not changed or acted any differently, but suddenly the dragons in her head go, she's ready, which obviously means she's gonna have her powers now. Thank God. But I don't know why she's getting her powers, because she is not ready. She has not done anything different. She has no character development. And then he turns around and guess what? He has back scars. I don't know why I didn't put this on my bingo card. The fantasy men always have back scars from their tragic backstory. And then we get the craziest little chapter that I sort of hate. She goes back to her room and she gets her full powers just roaring through her. She thinks she's about to die, and then she realizes the dragons are having sex and she is having horny dragon powers channeled through her. So she is so immensely horny. So she is running around and Liam is like, girl, are you okay? And she's like, I gotta go, I gotta go. You gotta get out of here. Which is so funny. And of course, she runs outside, and you know who, of course, she runs into? Xaden, who is also having these horny dragon powers channeled into him, and he is smoking. And she goes, is that a weed? It's so good. He's like, you need to lock down your powers. You need to block it out. And she's like, how? And of course, guess what? She's really good at immediately learning everything, and she's so powerful and so good at it, and he is so impressed. Of course, it's a fantasy book. What else are we expecting? I still hate that he calls her violence. I just was like, so are they gonna make out, or like, what's gonna happen? At the beginning of the scene, she points out that Xaden is also shirtless because she is like in her nightgown or something, and she's talking about how she's so sweaty hot going on right now, and he's also clearly sweaty hot because he is not wearing a shirt. But then a few sentences later, she says that while they're kissing, she's grabbing onto his shirt to pull him closer. Girl, inconsistency. And then she says one of my least favorite moments of the entire book. She tells him that she's gonna climb him like a tree. I can't believe she said that to his face. To his face! But then they're touching each other and they are making out, and I said, goal! We did it, boys. We did it! I'm very upset because if we will refer to my bingo chart, I said they would make out by chapter 20, and I was off by like 2 chapters. I'm very upset about this. I also hate the sentence where he says, violence, and then she's like, oh, my name on his lips sounds so good. Girl, your name is not Violence. Your name is Violet, and I wish he would call you it. We finished the chapter with my conclusion that I am so positive he could read her thoughts. The question is, how much of her thoughts can he read? Because damn, she's like so horny for him all the time. Like, does he know? Does he know? Alas, the chapter ends with him having morals. They can't have sex and make out right now because she's all drugged up on the horny dragon powers. But as she's leaving, she's like, I hate him, and like, I can't believe we made out. Like, that was such a mistake. I'm like, girl, you wanted him this whole time. What are you talking about? Then it's chapter 23. We're in January already, a new month, and she is finally in Kara's class because now she has her powers. She has to start learning how to use them. For someone in a lot of danger, she's really not in a lot of danger. There has been no other attacks. Jack has not been mentioned in ages. Like, I don't understand why they keep saying she's in danger. At least maybe throw in some sentences like, oh, there was a threat today, I almost got stabbed today. Like, she's not in danger at all, so I don't know what they're on about. Also, I hate that she was like basically fragile until they like trained her illness away. Like, she doesn't seem fragile at all anymore, or she seems completely fine now, so I don't know what's going on. I don't really like this. She's suddenly winning all of the challenges really easily. It seems like she's doing really well. And then we find out that Liam is reporting everything that happens to Xaden every day. When is he doing this? Because I feel like she's with him 24/7. When is he going to Xaden? I still don't understand how she knows the list of challengers and who's supposed to challenge her next. Because it was explained earlier that like Brennan left a note in his book on how to do it, but they don't say where the list is or like how to find it or anything. I sort of assumed it was like publicly on a wall and she just knew where to look before everyone else. But now it seems like literally no one else knows what the challenger like match is going to be until they get there. Only she does because she's cheating and looking at this list, which is somewhere in the ether. I don't know. But we find out that she is going to be fighting Jack. So she's like, I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm just going to fight him. It's going to be fine. Whatever. Then right before the match, she tells Liam. And he's like, oh my god, why didn't you tell me earlier? I have to go get Xaden. And she goes, well, he won't be able to get back in time, but you could go do that. Goodbye. I can't believe she told him goodbye. Like, she's so rude for that. Like, she thinks she's going to win. But then she's like, it was good knowing you, bud. Best of luck. Like, Xaden's gonna skin you alive if you don't get him in time and I die. Like, also, they keep saying it's too cold to fly the dragons. How is it too cold? Just wear a parka or something. Now we have this big spar between her and Jack, and I don't understand why they're allowed to kill other, like, riders at all if a lot of the dragons are bonded to their riders so seriously that if a rider dies, the dragon will die as well. I don't understand how that's even allowed, because, like, I feel like the dragons are so revered, why would you even risk killing a dragon? Or is this, like, is it not known? Or if you kill the rider, the dragon will die as well? Anyway, he's using illegal moves on her, but the battle continues anyway, and I don't understand why. And what is his power? We never actually find out, but his power seems crazy. Is it just causing pain? Because that tracks, he sucks, but like crazy. And he stabs her in the arm, disgusting, all the way through her arm. Ah. And the dragons like barely say anything to her in her mind. They say like a few things and then she's like, leave me alone, I got this. And then they say nothing. But then we're in the hospital wing. Let's go. If you see my bingo chart, I was really convinced she'd be going to the hospital wing like every other chapter. So I'm sort of annoyed that she wasn't. So the end of chapter 23, she wakes up in the hospital wing and Xaden's there and she's like, oranges? And then the chapter ends. And now it's chapter 24 and the scene just continues. And she's still in the hospital wing talking to him about the oranges. That's not how writing works. You shouldn't end a chapter in the middle of the scene and then just continue the scene like that. Like, that doesn't make sense, like, beat-wise, the way a writing works. I don't know why she did that. And finally, Xaden's like, I have to train you because it's getting too crazy. What I don't understand is if he knows everything about her, he knows she has chronic pain, why does he say, you need to know how to fight through pain? Like, she literally has chronic pain, and then she says that the next sentence. But now they're finally training, so we get another spicy sparring scene. He made her some daggers, which is very cute. Love that. However, I don't really understand this whole little scene. It's very hot. It's cute. Whatever. They're like hanging out. He keeps pinning her to the mat with his legs in between hers, which happened in the beginning as well. And yes, it's hot. It's spicy. Great, but I don't think that counts as pinning someone to a mat because you could easily get out of that position. It's harder if the legs are on either side of the person, trapping them that way. I don't know, I feel like that doesn't count as pinning her to the mat. It's more just like he's laying on her and they could have sex. But I also feel like this whole scene is sort of weird because he wants her to steal all the daggers off of him. Hot. Love that. But he makes it really easy. Like, I sort of feel like he doesn't really move. He just sort of, like, lays there and then she, like, sexily steals the daggers off of him. So he's, like, not actually teaching her anything. So I don't love that. But now it's February. And I sort of just don't understand why everyone is so dedicated to helping her. Like, she has such main character chosen one energy. It's crazy. I understand Xaden wants to help her because his life is connected to her. I understand that Rhiannon wants to help her because they're best friends and they're mutually helping each other. But Liam and Imogen are like really dedicated to this cause and they're only doing it because Xaden asked them to. Now it's March. This is the scene where Xaden and her run into Dane's dad and her mom. Mom sucks, and so Xaden finally gets to see that, and we also find out that they're now going to go start practicing together with their two dragons because they need to figure out formations better because Taryn is going to be the leader since he's the biggest, bestest dragon. And Sigil now has to learn how to not be a leader because she's previously been a leader and now she has to follow behind Taryn.
And I don't really love that because it's like the patriarchy wins again, I guess. But this is also, yet again, another weird time jump. The chapter ends and we go to chapter 25, and I feel like there could have been some more information there. I want to know what's happening with Xaden and Violet. Also, he ends the chapter saying that he wants to find out why she keeps falling off the dragon, and we never find out why she keeps falling off the dragon. There's no answer. So now we're suddenly at the end of the squad battle, which I don't feel like makes sense. I feel like this was a big thing we were sort of leading up to, and then we get like zero information about it. I feel like this would have been a really interesting like chapter of like the whole battle, how it pans out, who wins, whatever. But we just jump straight into it. Liam is crushing this kid. He wins. They're now in 3rd place. If they get a couple more points, they could win the whole thing. Great, whatever. It's giving triwizard tournament, is all I have to say. This is the big battle that if they win 1st place, they get to be sent to the front lines. Woo! So then they find out that the final battle is a game of wit to bring something that would absolutely destroy the military. And they say, I got it. She says, let's break into my mom's office. Love that for her. They do. But she says, I know exactly where my mom hides everything. She doesn't. They get into the office and then she's like, all right, guys, split up. And they read some missives on the desk, which seem pretty important, but they're not good enough for her. She doesn't want them. They end up taking the map, which is very smart. I like that. However, I feel like all of the talents that the different people have are like too obvious easy. Like Nadine has ward unweaving, which is what they specifically need to break into the office. So they steal the map, they bring it back to the thing, and I realized that was like the point of the whole assignment, was to bring something really scandalous or whatever, but I also feel like they're showing the entire school some classified information of an active war map, and I feel like that it goes against the, like, yeah, they won the battle on the most ballsy, like, creative thing, but they also revealed a bunch of classified information to an entire school of people, and I feel like they should be punished, but whatever. Then we time jump again into chapter 26. Of course they won. Of course they get to go out to the front lines, safest place apparently, so it's not that dangerous. It's now April. She's only there for like a couple days. We get to see the sister again. That's exciting. We time jump again, and then we time jump again, and now we're at Rhiannon's house because Rhiannon lives nearby. She wants to see her sibling. They're having a little chat, and then she says, how long do you think mated pairs could be away from each other? And guess who's there? Xaden! And he says, 3 days. 3 days, girl. I came all the way here for you. Love it. Love it. Now we're at chapter 27. Ooh, we're almost there, guys. There's another freaking time jump, and he's speaking in her mind now. This is a little crazy. This is where I was like, how long has he been able to like actually read her mind and speak into her mind, but he hasn't been doing it, and why has he chosen now to do it? I don't really love telepathy in a couple, but it's also like, it's fun. They're in a little war class where Mira, the sister, is leading it, and this was really funny because it's just like they're flirting in the middle of class, and then they're trying to work out this battle brief, and she says, okay, figure out what would happen, figure out who's in command, and figure out how you guys would deal with this. And they kept being like, well, that would never happen because blah blah blah. And she's like, this is an exercise, can you just play along? And Dane's like, okay, well, I would be the leader. Well, actually I wouldn't, because Xaden's here, so Xaden would be the leader. And then Xaden's like, you're the one that needs to learn. Pretend I'm not here and you just lead. And he's like, but I can't. And it's like, just do it. Just do it. Dane sucks. And then Mira's like, I gotta talk to you three because y'all are driving us nuts. So she calls Dane, Violet, and Xaden out into the hallway to yell at them, which is so good. We love Mira. And so she yells at Dane and she's like, get your act together, dude. You freaking suck. And he's like, fine, okay. And then she starts yelling at Violet. But she starts yelling at Violet about Xaden when Xaden is standing right there. And at this point, I don't really know why she called Xaden into the hallway to do this as well. It doesn't really seem like he's needed to be there. But then she says, Xaden, you better keep my sister safe. Also, she's very prejudiced against him, which we don't love, but okay. And then, of course, they're in the safest outpost, supposedly. But now they're under attack.
So they run up to the top of the thing and they all mount their dragons and escape. And she doesn't want to because she feels like she needs to be there to help fight people. And she needs to help because she's so sympathetic and helpful. And also it's her sister and she can't leave. Xaden has promised to get her to safety. So he puts her on the dragon, which was really funny because he goes, okay, T-pose. She goes like this and the dragon scoops her up. So good. But he kisses her first. And that was their first kiss where they weren't on the dragon horny powers. So that one counts for sure. In chapter 28, we get a time jump. They are now back at the place, and she's just skipping all of her classes, and apparently there's no consequences for it. Whatever. So she's standing outside of the office trying to wait for information about her sister Mira, because she needs to know if her sister survived. I get it, whatever. She's chatting with Xaden. He's really sweet. He's brought her some coffee, which is so cute. He confesses to her, which was great, and we find out that he's 23 years old, and I think she said she was 20. I love that he admits to stalking her, basically. He says he knows everything about her. All right, it's giving Edward. Then we find out telepathy. She finally figures out how to do it. Great. Love that. We find out that the sister is doing okay and did indeed survive. Great. But then she, almost passes out, and for some reason, Dane's there and catches her instead of Xaden. Why? And then when she stands back up, Xaden is gone. What's going on? Dane sucks. We don't like him. And then we get some time jumps to her asking some cute little questions to Xaden. She's like, what's your favorite color? What do you like to eat? Why do you have scars on your back? Tell me all your trauma. This girl has no tact. What is she doing? And then it time jumps again directly into the war games. It's now May. I forgot that Jack even existed, but here he is again. He's now important because he's about to die. So she now has a saddle on her dragon, which I think is yet again very funny, but alright, I guess this is good because now they can both focus just on flying and no one needs to focus on trying to keep her in the saddle because now she's strapped in. Perfect, great. Liam gets stabbed, she freaks out, she stops time to catch him. Great, he's gonna survive, I hope. We're moving on. And then she's like, I gotta go kill Jack because he freaking sucks. So she goes to kill Jack and she realizes she has lightning power and she releases it on him and kills him. So there we are. I was correct that she would have light power. Lightning, I think, counts. This was a really well-written chapter. I liked it. It was exciting. It was fun. I don't know why we didn't get the full war game, but this was still a good snippet. Fun stuff. Now we're in chapter 29. She's freaking the hell out because she just killed somebody. Dane comes over. Why? Don't know. But then Xaden comes over. Thank God. I was like, where is he? We need Xaden. He knows what's going on. Dane says some dumb stuff, but then Xaden comes over and says some better stuff. So that's good. He's like, girl, you're a weapon. And I was like, oof. I don't really love this trope when our main character female finally realizes her powers and for some reason she is the chosen one. She is the most powerful. She is going to be used because she is the best weapon asset that the army has. I don't really love that. But also, I guess, it feels like a good metaphor for being a woman. Anyway, moving on. Time jump. Of course, she's in a slinky, hot little dressing gown. I totally didn't register this before when they described her at night, but she always wears nightgowns. Don't love it, but whatever. Of course, it's a sexy little nightgown. Guess what? Xaden shows up. Chapter 30. And we now are getting the spice that y'all wanted. It's not the best spice I've ever read. They're kissing. It's great. He finally says violet instead of violence. Thank God. On the desk, they're against the wardrobe, they're against the curtain for some reason, avoiding the bed like lava. I don't know why. They break everything in the room. I didn't love his weird little basic sentences that he was using. He sort of sounded like a frat boy. He was like, God, you're so hot. I was like, ugh. Be creative. Jeez. They are both taking fantasy birth control. I didn't put this on my bingo card, but I almost did, because fantasy birth control is one of my favorite tropes. I feel like it is always mentioned, and I think it's so funny. This whole scene gave me a little bit of ick, because I felt like they were being so loud. The entire castle must know. She has lightning powers. There's lightning going off outside the room. In the room, everything in the room is destroyed. They are hitting all of the walls. They are yelling. They are moaning. She asks him about the scars, and he tells her. And I'm not gonna lie, I still don't really understand the scars. So he basically says that he made a deal, I think with her mom, that he would take responsibility for all of the other kids, all 107 of them, the rebellion kids,
and that they would all go to the rider bit of conscription, and that there would be no rebellion from them ever. And if there is, he takes the brunt of it. I don't understand why he's responsible for them. I don't know how he was given this deal choice at all. But all of the other kids obviously listen and look to him. So he's a very good leader of them, but it's also so freaking bizarre. And then as a result, he has 107 scars on his back. I don't know if they're like tally marks, but they represent the 107 kids, and it's a reminder to him. I don't know if he did them to himself. I don't know if the person he made the deal with, aka I think Violet's mother, did them to him. I don't understand at all. But we move on. And then this is the first time jump we've had that's actually been normal, because it time jumps from like them falling asleep, and then she wakes up and goes to class. And she goes to class with Carr. Carr freaks me out. I'm sure we're supposed to be freaked out by him. And then, of course, her dragon is able to take off and on the saddle. Of course he is. Sure. I'm really curious about the logistics of that, but whatever. And this is the first time that someone has called her fragile. Carr calls her fragile, and she doesn't like lose her mind. She's like calmly like, yes, okay. So that's some character development for you. And then they're like, we need to practice your lightning powers so that you could use it better. So Carr's like, use your lightning power. And she's like, I don't actually know how to access it. I've only accessed it when I was really angry or during sex. So like, I don't know what to do. So she mind links with Xaden. She mind links with Xaden, and she goes, I don't know what to do. He wants me to use my lightning powers, and I can't figure out. And he says, please hold. And then he turns her on remotely. I hate this scene. It's so funny. Like, it's like, okay, he's just like, beep. And then she's like, ka-chow. I hate it. And I feel like it sort of makes it was funny, but it's sort of boring because it's almost like she didn't accomplish that. She didn't like have the hardship of trying to figure out how to access that part of herself. He was just like, oh, I got you, babes. And then she's like, okay, cool. And now she's able to do it. Which I feel like that's like a consistent problem I've had with this whole book, is that she never really like accomplishes anything. And I almost feel like the author mentions like, oh, well, she has been doing weightlifting for weeks, and she mentions the weightlifting, but she doesn't do it in an interesting way or like describe it. It's just like, oh, she does that thing, she is practicing, she's doing this, and then it's like just assumed she eventually gets better, which is how practice works. The more you practice, the better you get at something. But I feel like we as the reader are not going on that journey with her almost. It's sort of just like happening, and we're hearing about it, and we're just like, okay, and then she does it. So it doesn't really feel like an accomplishment. So that is the first 30 chapters of the book. I have basically 10 chapters left. My bingo is not doing great, but I'm trying my best. Hoping maybe I will get like at least one bingo by the end of the book. I still believe that the folklore book is going to be important and give us some vital information. I still believe that the first years are going to be sent out to battle early because the battles are raging and whatever. I also believe we're gonna get some more like Xaden being super protective of her, and them having some sort of battle together where they work together, and then like something happens and like one of them has to protect the other or something like that. And I'm gonna predict they're probably also gonna hook up some more. That just seems pretty accurate for this series. I also feel like we gotta have more drama with Dane, so I bet you he's gonna like find out about her and Xaden somehow and then like freak out, even though it's not his business. But we only have 9 chapters left, and I honestly don't know where the book is going, because the writing makes no sense. But I'm having a great little time, and I'm very excited to read this and then read the next one. So I will see you soon.
You guys, we gotta talk about this. I was on board. I was on board with this book. I had problems with it, but I was gonna give it 4 stars. I'm not giving it 4 stars anymore. It's getting 1.5. We gotta dissect this. All right, so last I left you off, chapter 31 to 39, the end of the book, okay? And I was like, it's been going pretty all right so far. Like, I feel like maybe it's gonna be like I'm gonna enjoy this, because so many people like it. Everyone's talking about it. You guys, what is this? Really? 31, we finally have some time jumps that are making sense, where she's like skipping some time that we don't really need to hear about, and it's fine. It makes sense. I'm okay with it. We're moving on. Thank God. She's finally figured it out. She's emptying her wardrobe because obviously it's been destroyed. She has to like figure that out. Where did she suddenly get so much clothes? She's like, I'm moving piles of clothes out of my wardrobe. But girl, you had one pack. And I'm sure you got like some clothes from the school, but like, why do you have piles of clothes in your wardrobe? That doesn't make sense. Xaden shows up and now she's demanding secrets out of him, and he gives them to her, but they make no sense. Later, we find out they are relevant because he's going to Aberthine or whatever that city is called. He's going to Aberthine, but he doesn't tell her why, and she doesn't press because she doesn't want to press, even though she's demanding secrets from him. But then obviously they go back there again, so like it's relevant. But at the same time, I was like, this is the dumbest way they could have possibly written this little hint. Because like, yes, okay, we're getting some foreshadowing, but it's not done well. Then we also find out that people can have magic, but you need to have a dragon to ground you, otherwise it could be wild magic. So now we're talking about venins again, which will come in later. So we've been hinting venins a little bit throughout this book. However, I was so positive that was not going to happen in this story, because to me, the plot of this book is school. That's the plot. We're learning about the school, we're establishing the school and the world with the dragons and how the dragons work. It would make sense that like she goes through the whole school and she graduates and or something happens like that towards the end, and that's like leads up. The next book is Venin, which I guess sort of happens, but not really, because we jump straight into Venin at the end of this book. Spoilers. We find a cryptic note from Dad in the folklore book. I told you that would be relevant. We're gonna check that off in my bingo sheet. Obviously it becomes more relevant in like 2 chapters, but I was so tired of it. It's not good writing. And then she goes, haha, I wonder if the general is a venin. That would be so bad. Haha, I bet you that's what's gonna happen. I'm predicting that for book 2 right now. This woman does not know how to foreshadow. Then she throws him out. She says, get out of my room. Girl, pop off. Love that. It was a little spicy without actually being spicy. I don't know. None of this book has actually been like good spice in my opinion. Just saying. Xaden is a dumb man. Then we time jump to a random lunch period. Don't know why. And yet again, hungry girl syndrome strikes again. I hate it. Then he's like, they're talking in their minds. He's calling a spicy moment in sparring that I don't think we got to see. Little confused why he's calling that back. They're literally in public and they're flirting with each other like that, but whatever. And then she makes him choke. Very funny. Love that. Then we time jump again. The day there's a ball. Apparently this is Goblet of Fire. We did the triwizard tournament. Now we have the Yule ball. It also happens to be the anniversary of the rebellion thing, aka also the anniversary of Brennan's death, her brother, and I guess also his dad and all of the other rebellion people. I just want to point out here that it doesn't really make sense. Brennan died on the same day that all of the people were executed. I feel like that doesn't make any sense. So she's sad and irritable, he's sad and irritable. Everybody's in a weird mood because they're getting ready to party, but also it's sad. Somehow we've jumped a month and a half and they have not really been talking to each other or making out because she said, I need time and you need to be dedicated to me, otherwise we can't do this. And he said, okay, fine, and backed up and left. Great. They communicated. What did they communicate? Not really sure. I feel like something about it was wrong, but I can't really pinpoint what it was. He's graduating soon. She will also be graduating to the next year. She's all like, oh my god, I only have a little bit of time left before he's gonna leave. I wonder how that's gonna be. Then we have to navigate a long-term relationship, even though we're technically not in a relationship. So much drama. She's still flirting with him in their minds. Jealousy is not looking good on her. And for some reason, she thinks Imogen is in love with Xaden and that they have a thing. I don't really know where she's getting this from because I just don't see it at all. It doesn't... She keeps bringing it up and I just... Imogen literally said she had a girlfriend and like, I don't think Imogen likes Xaden like that. I think it's really clear, but whatever. But then he accidentally says her name out loud in class.
That was sort of funny. Another thing that bothered me in this chapter, they're in class with a professor named Devera, but for some reason, Devera is never referred to as Professor Devera. She's only referred to as Devera, and all of the other professors get the full title every time they're talked about, so I didn't really love that. Liam's still guarding her. I'm not really sure why. She's not been attacked since that first night, and like, it's great that Liam's there, but at the same time, she really does not need protection, especially now that she can do lightning. And I guess Liam's fine from almost dying, because we just never followed up on that. Then we have another time jump straight into the ball. She's in a fancy dress. I'm gonna say I'm a little disappointed in this fancy ball thing, because if you're gonna do the fancy ball trope, you gotta do it right. And they did not describe the dresses and all the outfits and how everybody looked really pretty. They did not. Everyone's just in black, because they're in the Black Riders outfits, and then all the scribes are in white, and all the healers are in blue, or whatever the hell it was. And it's just like, that's not exciting. And her dress isn't like a fun ball gown. It's like a shirt with a skirt, and she wears loafers. And her hair is done nice, I guess, but we don't even really get a full description of what her hair looks like. It's just down-ish, question mark. Liam finally mentions that, oh, people are probably interested in hurting her because it'll hurt Xaden, and I don't know why we haven't really talked about this earlier, because I thought it was pretty obvious from the start that if they're connected, and he's worried about her dying because it'll hurt him, that, like, it goes both ways, you know? Like, he's worried about her safety for his safety, but also, like, people are also going for her for the dragon, but also to get to Xaden. I don't know why we haven't talked about this earlier. It was pretty obvious. This is where I found out there's a king. I'm pretty positive it was mentioned earlier, but we know nothing about the rest of this country. And this is what I was talking about in my book club with my friends when we were just on like a 3-hour phone call. Because we know like literally nothing about how people live in this world. We know that she grew up in a military family that moved around a lot, but for the past 5 years she's been at this location, and she spent a lot of time in the archives, but did not want to be a rider. That's all we know. We don't know what a house looks like in this world. We don't know what the government system is. We don't know like how people go about their normal days. We don't know if there's normal jobs in the world or if it's literally just military. We have no idea what the population of the country is or how big the country is, because it honestly doesn't make sense. They're constantly flying places and it's taking like 6 to 12 hours, and to me that sounds enormous. But then the map does not look that big. I don't know. And I realized they're on dragons, which are not as fast as like a plane per se, but you gotta think like if you're flying on a dragon for 12 hours, that's a good distance. Like you have to go pretty far, and that's not even apparently the full span of the country. That's just from Basgaith, where they are, to the wards, which don't look that far away on the map. I'm just saying. So I find out there's a king. The king sort of sucks, but who's surprised? He's just basically irrelevant. But he comes over to talk to her and also Liam. The general and her mom are with the king, and the general points out that he likes to see Xaden at least once a year, and that he hasn't seen him. And where are all the other kids with the relic scars from the rebellion? Because literally none of them are here. It's just Liam, because she wanted to go to this ball, which made Liam go to this ball because Liam has to bodyguard her. So she feels really bad and she starts apologizing, but he's like, no, don't worry, like I'm doing this for fun, like I want to be with you, I'm your friend. But then we find out like that she hates balls apparently, and they're like, I know you want to get out of here, so get out. So she leaves early. So now I'm like, why did she even go to the ball? It seems like she was sort of excited to go to the ball. Now apparently she hates balls. I don't know what's going on. She leaves the ball. She's looking for Xaden because she's like, oh, you're right, Xaden isn't here. And I asked him in my mind and he didn't respond. But I guess that's because he's probably sad because this is the day his dad died. And in fact, it's also the day my brother died. I should be sad. So she finds Xaden, he's on the parapet, which I called. That's on my bingo chart. I don't really know why. I just had a little hunch that they would go back to this parapet thing because it sort of seems like an irrelevant piece of architecture just in general. So I was like, we gotta use it more than once. It can't just be used for this introduction day training task thing. Like, we gotta come back to it in the plot somehow. I guess Xaden likes to hide here and he likes to mope. So she finds him out, she starts going out to him, but she's wearing a skirt and it's really windy and she might die. And he's like, you might die. And she's like, you might die. I could say the same thing to you. And he's like, I have shadow magic that can catch me, girl. What do you have? And she's like, oh, you're right. Sorry, my bad. And then they have a flirty, weird little moment where she like goes out there wanting to like comfort him, but basically just talks about herself and their relationship the whole time. So I feel like that she was a bad job at comforting him.
But whatever. She ends up dragging him off to his bedroom so that they could go have sex a bunch of times. And she's like, I'm gonna take care of you. Everything about that scene seems like a child playing house. I don't know how else to explain it, but if that's what you guys feel like a real relationship is like. So we're in chapter 32 now. They're confessing to each other, but she's really making this all about her, and she's trying to take care of him, but she's also not. We find out that Imogen has a thing for Garrick, which is why Imogen is often looking at Garrick and Xaden when they spar. Cool, whatever. I guess Imogen is bi. This is irrelevant to the plot. We also find out that he apparently was in love at first sight and loved her no matter what, even though her mom literally killed his dad. He has more reasons to hate her than she does to him, but we'll talk about that at the end. She finds out that the scar on his face is from Scale. Apparently, most dragons usually scar their riders as well as give them a relic tattoo. And this is new information that we are finding out on page, 280. Why? Also, I cannot name a single other rider that has scars on them from their dragon. Rebecca Yarros forgot that she gave him a scar just to look hot and then was like, ooh, I gotta make it mean something. He got it from Skagel. Like, why? And Tara never talked about trying to scar her, so I don't know what's on about that. She just confessed again, and she also says that she's in love with him. In one night. In one night. She has dumped so much on him, and he accepts it, and he's like, I'm fully in, baby, let's go. I hated that she times him taking her clothes off. It's really weird. I also hated that he was keeping track of how many orgasms she has based on how many lightning strikes occur outside. I'm no longer enjoying this story. And from here on, it was all downhill. Now, there's a ton of spice, but none of it's that spicy. And then they're interrupted. It's 4 a.m. and they're being called to battle. I knew this would happen. I knew it. So now they rush downstairs. She throws on one of his jackets and everyone's like, oh my god, where you been, girl? And she's like, haha, nowhere. And they're like, your jacket clearly says Xaden's name on it. We all know where you've been. And she's like, haha. And they had made it such a big deal before that, if she was to sleep with someone above her rank, that it's a big deal because it's like, oh, you're working your way up the power ranks by sleeping your way there. No one seems to care. I think Dane would care, but no one else seems to care. At this point, I was like, if they're about to be attacked and they're in battle, why didn't the dragons say anything? So then I'm immediately suspicious. I'm like, what's going on? And chapter 33 starts and we find out, oh, the dragons didn't say anything because this isn't a real battle. This is the war games. So this is their final test basically before graduation. They knew it was going to happen soon. They didn't know when it would happen. Whatever. I understand they're trying to get them at all moments, but why would they do it the night of the ball? I guess that makes them extra prepared, but she has not slept yet. Neither of them have slept. It's 4 a.m. and they're going just on zero sleep. And the rest of the book continues with them not sleeping. We never talk about it. I don't know why it's not talked about the fact that she should be tired. They should both be very tired. It's barely mentioned. They arrange for all of the different people in the school to go out in their units and are assigned different locations that they have to go to in the real country. This does not make sense to me. This is an academy and they're supposed to be doing a final test on their battle skills, but they're putting them in real world situations. But then also it seems like giving them tasks to do at these real life battle places. If I was working at one of these battle places and all these random school kids showed up on their field trip to prove that they can graduate and they have to do real life action things while we're trying to get our jobs done and save the country, I would be so pissed. Could you imagine? Anyway, Dane's squad, which includes Liam, Rhiannon, Violet, our little group, gets assigned to this one little outpost, and Xaden gets assigned to a really far away outpost that is outside of the wards. So basically they're sending him into enemy territory, which is even crazier. They're literally students. So we already know something is afoot. But Xaden comes over and he's like, nah, we're not doing this. Liam, Violet, you're coming with me. Also, Imogen, I think. Maybe somebody else. I don't remember. Whatever. He steals a couple people for his squad because apparently he's a wing leader and he can do whatever the hell he wants. Dane gets really upset, but he can't do anything about it because Xaden outranks him. So they start to head off on their journey to the really far outpost out of the wards. Dane is freaking out and he's touching her face and he's sort of like, you shouldn't trust this guy. Xaden should not be trusted. He is going to betray you and I know it. And she's like, too bad. I trust him. And then Dane's like, oh, you're sleeping with him. like, you're sleeping with him, you need to stay with me, please. And he begs her, and she says no, because it's obvious that she's gonna go wherever Xaden goes because they're in love, but also they have the whole dragon complication thing, so I don't really know why they would get assigned different locations in the first place, because it already seems like wherever the dragons need to be at all times anyway, so they should just start practicing that way. Now we're into chapter 34. At this point, I said, if Xaden does betray her, I'm gonna lose it, because that would be such a good plot. I take it back, because the way that it was not done well. Chapter 34, we're going to Athbine, which is not even on the map that's in my book. I don't know why she would make a map and include it in the front of the book, and then not even include the locations that are in the book on the map. That's a useless map then. They're flying, it's like 12 hours to get to Athbine, so she's really tired. They finally stop at a little lake. But I also don't really understand, apparently they're flying in a formation, and Taryn is not the front leader dragon. And previously in one of the chapters we'd established that Taryn is a leading dragon and he will not go in any other formation. And now here he is just doing his job like he's supposed to. I wish there was just a semblance of consistency in this book. They leave the wards, and apparently the wards really affect the dragons. The dragons feel weirder, but also she could tell her magic feels looser and wilder. Why do the wards affect the dragons at all? Apparently the dragons can speak in each other's minds easier when they're inside the wards than rather outside, and then that point is completely ignored in the next battle, so whatever. We also find out that apparently they lose 10% of the graduating class to the war games every year. That seems like an extreme waste of good bodies for the army. And yet again, I want to bring up the fact that if a rider dies, the dragon dies, and vice versa, and I feel like dragons are too valuable to lose, so I don't know why we would allow people to be killing each other and or dying randomly. At this point, I'm already very frustrated because they are such a messy couple. They are not getting anything done because they're so distracted by each other already. So this is where they take a little water break at this lake. They're in the forest, and Xaden and Violet, of course, go off together, and she's like, but people are gonna see, and he's like, they're all my friends, they don't care. And I'm like, this book is so annoying. So they go off behind a little boulder, and guess what? They make out a little bit, and we have a little massage time in the middle of a forest. And I knew immediately the second that they went off behind a little boulder by themselves that they were going to get attacked or something. And you know what? Guess what? The griffins show up. Then we get chapter 35. Xaden indeed betrayed her, and by betrayed her, I mean he's been working with the Griffins, the other country, the entire time, and he's apparently doing shipments to the Griffins, and Violet is losing her goddamn mind. She is so pissed, she wants to attack the Griffins. Somehow Xaden, like, binds her arms and tells her to chill out and stop because we're friends with them. He's like, just hear me out, girl, just hear me out, and she's like, she needs space to, like, process this, and he does not let her have space. He's like, no, you trust me because you love me. And she's like, do I? Which, Violet, bless you. Like, good job. But also, she did not simply hate him long enough, in my opinion. Then all of a sudden, we're introducing the real enemy. We have, I'm not joking, 17 pages left in this book, and we're finally introducing the actual enemy, which is the Venin, the people that have magic but no base, or whatever the hell it is. And she's like, I thought that was just a fable. It's in my folklore book from my dad. And they're like, fables come from somewhere, girl. And she's like, you right. Immediately believes them because she's smart. Also, this is like the first time I feel like she's ever been an outsider because she comes from a privileged place in the capital where her parents are generals and whatnot. And this is the first time in her life where she's surrounded by others, I guess. All people that believe something and she doesn't. I also don't really love that her dragons all knew this but were somehow keeping it from her and not telling her because were waiting for Xaden to tell her, and he never did. Like, when was he gonna tell her that? Probably never. And then suddenly she's taking it out on Liam. Why? We know you're angry, girl, but like, chill out. And then Xaden has the audacity to call her Violence again. I'm like, this is not the time to be using your weird pet name that does not make sense. This is where I really lost all hope for the book. We have 17 pages left, and this is the stuff that's happening. She keeps accusing him of lying by omission, but it's like, she never even asked questions, and he's never brought it up, and it's never been brought up in general, so it's not even lying by omission. I would argue that he never even lied to her at all. She just wasn't smart enough to ask the questions. She didn't even know this was happening. So And this is where we find out the real kicker, that Dane can read your mind just by touching anywhere on your face. It's not just the foreheads, which I thought was a ridiculous thing. So every time that he's cupped her face, which I pointed out was freaking weird, he's been reading her mind. And I liked that. That was delicious. I was like, all right, fine. That's like, we got something. Nice. So she accidentally gave away info. And so now she feels really horrible because now that means yesterday when she was grilling Xaden about secrets and he said, I'll tell you one thing, Athbine, and then Dane cupped her face right before they left. He found out about the Athbine thing and probably told his dad, and then they arranged for Xaden to be sent out here to face his moral dilemma. Because we find out that the Griffins tell them that there's a group of Venin coming to this outpost, and the outpost that they're assigned to is right near the little town that's being attacked by Venin, and when they get to the outpost, it's completely abandoned, save for a little letter that says, Xaden, haha, you're screwed. You either have to make your choice to abandon your post and lose the war games and go back to this other place, or you could save this town, I guess. How did they know that the town was going to be attacked by Venin? Jesus Christ, that's messed up. And it's literally her fault, so that sucks. And she wasn't even supposed to be there, which I think is interesting, because I feel like maybe Dane was trying to save her because he probably knew, but then he couldn't. But it's also like, she's one of the biggest commander's, like, daughters. I'm sure they're gonna try to go out and save her. Like, why did they even let her go in the first place? Chapter 36. This is the part where I don't understand why there's so much drama around everything, because at this point we've built up her character and Xaden's character and the dragon so much that I feel that they are overpowerful and could literally defeat anything. It does not matter. So we introduce this problem. There's like 10 Venin, and then we discover there's also a bunch of wyverns that they've created and that they're evil and they're gonna destroy the entire town, and the only way to kill them is with some daggers. I still feel like they could easily defeat them. I think that Xaden and Violet could literally do this by themselves, and they could still make it to that other outpost in time as well. Like, even though she's untrained, I still feel like she is more powerful than all these Venin. It doesn't make sense. I will admit this chapter was exciting though. This was a really like interesting little battle moment. I was a little confused about where everything was at all moments. It felt like the battle was going on for too long. It sort of seemed to me like they had defeated them by now, but then there's still more wyvern and still more Venin, and I thought they killed them all. And I sort of wish I kept tally because I think they did, and I think her math is wrong. Apparently dragon fire doesn't kill them, but then apparently lightning can kill them. I don't think that makes any sense because I would assume dragon fire is magic and also her lightning is magic. It's been established that she's really good at throwing daggers, and that's literally all she has to do. I don't understand why she can't just take out 10 of the Venin by herself with the daggers. They also keep saying that they need to dismount to then stab these Venin, but I feel like, could you not throw your daggers while you're riding your dragon? Like, I don't think you need to dismount to do that. Xaden decides that he is going to help save the village and that they are abandoning the outpost and the war games and they're going to go save the village. And he says that no one else has to follow him, but they can if they want. But I think his leadership is too good that they're obviously all going to follow him, even to their detriment. It doesn't matter, which I think is a flaw. But then she is the last person to say yes or not, and she hesitates for so long. But obviously she says yes anyway. He sort of wishes she doesn't. Whatever. And then we have like 2 whole pages of nothing happen. And I was like, are they not going to go save this city or not? Like, I feel like they're taking forever to get going. This is a battle. We need to go. We need to go save these people. Time is of the essence. So then we find out the wyverns are real, which I was like, girl, obviously, we just had this whole conversation that all the fables are true. So I don't know why she's freaking out. But the wyverns are there. Moving on. Apparently, General Mulligan's power is omnipotence. He just knows everything because he can see everything, but for some convenient reason, he can't see things that are involving the people with the relic tattoos. So any of the conscripted children of the rebellion that have those relic tattoos from the rebellion cannot be seen if they are in groups of 3. So that's why there's a law that they can't be in groups of 3 or more. And I hate that. Easy plot device, and it's so dumb. It makes no sense. Like, that's just so convenient. But apparently, they can't be seen because they're all in that little group together. But then I was like, Violet's there, so can't Violet, like, he could probably see what's happening with Violet and what she's interacting with. But apparently, I guess, because she's surrounded by all these people with the relic tattoos, It negates everything. It blurs the future. It's like Alice in Twilight, how she can't see things involving werewolves. I hate this. Then all of a sudden, they're like, on the dragons, they're immediately at the trading post. I was like, that was too fast. We did not describe how they got there. We are just there. Okay, sure. Moving on. She tries fire blasting, even though they literally just said that they could not be killed by fire blasting or magic and need to be killed with the daggers. I don't know why she does this. I still don't understand why the dragons and the griffins are technically at war, or that's what we've been told this whole time, but also they're working together right now, but they sort of hate each other. It's all just glossed over. They're working together and they're doing fine. They're best buds, so I don't know why. Maybe that's all a lie and it's just not established. I don't know. And apparently dragons can speak telepathically to the griffins, and they could have done this whole time. Yet again, I feel like both of these creatures are insanely powerful mystical beings, and I do not understand why they are fighting. I understand that the Venin are evil, that makes complete sense to me, but the griffin dragon battle thing makes zero sense. We've also established that she could do about 10 lightning strikes per hour until she gets really tired, and that she also has really bad aim. But she is, at this point, just using lightning left and right, and she is not counting how many she's using or registering if she's tired or not. And I feel like she's gone way past 10 lightning strikes and is, not tired. I mean, she's tired, but she's, doing fine, so I don't know what's going on with that. However, towards the end, we reach burnout, so whatever. We find out that if you kill a wyvern, it also kills its rider, similar to the dragon-human relationship. But they're like, oh, we don't know, maybe, that's probably how it works, and then we're like, no, that is how it works, okay, we know. But this also establishes now that, for sure, if you kill a rider, you're killing a dragon. If you kill a dragon, you're killing a rider, which previously has sort of been a gray area. It sort of seemed only that applied to her and maybe Skagel and Xaden, but, none of the other dragons, because we were never concerned about hurting the riders or the dragons before. But now it's a plot point. They're successfully moving a bunch of civilians into this mine. Something about the city is being destroyed, but there's something in the clock tower. There's a bunch of wyverns. People are everywhere. It's very chaotic, which I guess is good for a battle scene, but at the same time I have no idea what's freaking going on at all. Then Liam somehow gets in the way of a wyvern that is going for Taryn and Violet, and he and his dragon take the brunt. But Liam is thrown onto her dragon, and she catches him and holds on to him. But his dragon is being absolutely destroyed by this wyvern and ends up dying, which then kills Liam, because apparently he can only live for 2 minutes before he also dies. Very sad. Liam was the only character I liked in this entire book, so wasn't super excited about that. However, I didn't cry at his death. I don't know. It was really traumatic, and I thought it was the best writing probably in this whole book. She's also yelling to Xaden. She's like, Xaden, get over there and help us, but he doesn't reach it in time. And for some reason, we've now established that Xaden and Liam are literally brothers, but they're not. I knew they were close, but it also feels like Xaden's close to all of the other conscripted kids, so I don't really understand this whole thing. So he's really sad. Liam dies in her arms, and then Xaden comes over and brings Liam's body next to his dragon's body, and then all of a sudden there's a ton of wyverns about to attack them. Where the hell did they come from? I don't know. Whatever. Apparently one Venin has created 20 wyverns. Don't know how that's possible. We're moving on. There's only 2 Venin left. They're both attacking Xaden and Violet. Who the hell knows where any of the other rest of their infantry is? I don't know. Apparently Liam tells Xaden something right before he dies about them having to die or something. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. At this point, the Venin is chasing her, and she's like, I gotta release all of my magic power. Taryn, give me all the magic, even though it's gonna burn me out. And he's like, you can't. And she's like, let me do it. And he goes, okay. And then the Venin rider is able to dismount her wyvern and land on the back of Taryn. So they're now fighting on Taryn's back. So Violet unstraps from her rider saddle, and Taryn's like, you're gonna fall off. You always do, girl. Which, oof, what a read. But she's like, just stay level and I won't fall off. Which is true. She only falls off when he's doing loop-de-loops and stuff. So as long as he's flying straight, he should be fine. But they start fighting, and the dagger that the Venin lady has is green. And I don't know why the poison master Violet, she keeps saying she's a master of poisons, doesn't register that it's probably a poisonous dagger. But whatever. She gets stabbed, but she's able to take the Venin out. And then she pulls the dagger out and she's like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. I wonder why. It's poison. Why is she dumb? Literally, they keep talking about how smart she is. I think she is the worst character. She's not smart at all. And the chapter ends with her saying to Taryn to let her use all of his magic, and he says, fine, okay. She's literally burning out. She uses all her lightning at once. She tells Xaden to release his guards, whatever. She kills all of the wyverns, they kill off the venom, and then she is falling to her death off of Taryn because she never strapped back in. She's fallen off Taryn so many times, I don't know why Taryn wasn't able to just catch her, but I also don't understand, like, if she was just stabbed with poison, does Taryn also feel it? I guess not. Also, the burnout thing that's happening right now, I guess Taryn doesn't feel. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. So now we're at chapter 38. I'm like, okay, so is she gonna die? Cool. I don't care. She's magically severed from Taryn, but also she's poisoned, and she's going in and out of consciousness. Andarna has caught her and slowed time, and just enough to, like, slow her descent, but not enough to, like, stop her from falling, but she's able to guide her into Xaden's arms. And so Xaden catches her, and they're going in and out of time. There's a bunch of time jumps, but these time jumps make sense. It's fine. And we hear Xaden say some cryptic things like, we don't have enough time to bring her back to Basgaith. I don't know why they would go to Basgaith when they obviously know that they're supposed to be dead because the generals assigned them here so that they could die. I don't really know why they're even considering the school anymore. We're not talking about the school anymore. The school's not dead. We're literally not. The school plot is gone. We're no longer doing the war games. We're doing our own thing, I guess. We're now in, like, a real war. And Xaden says some cryptic stuff like, we gotta bring her to him. And at this point, I was like, Jesus Christ. So you're telling me that either her dad or her brother is not actually dead. Cool. I'm gonna guess it's Brennan, because Brennan is the one we talk about more, and the more relevant one, because he's a mender. Cool. So Brennan's alive. I've already realized this. And I don't know why we're trying to be cryptic about it. It's obvious. This is also the point when I'm like, she has unparalleled knowledge of poison, but she didn't realize that she was being poisoned. Like, I don't understand. So we've completely forgot the war games. Time jumps again. She thinks that Xaden hates her still. Don't know why. Then we get chapter 39, Xaden's perspective. Let's go! I love a little perspective switch, although this is not, like, that interesting. It was just because she's passed out. But we find out this new fun fact that Xaden is the grandson of Scale's second rider. Interesting little tidbit, not relevant at all, but okay, I wrote it down. Violet survives. Great. She finally wakes up. She's been asleep for a really long time. We don't find out how she was healed or anything, but whatever. She's awake, but she's acting really weird, and my immediately thought, oh god, she's possessed. Either that or she's lost all her memories and she's a completely blank slate and doesn't even remember being a rider because of what is she doing. Like, she seemed so weird. So I also was like, maybe the Venom are, like, controlling her still, like, she's not actually healed, but whatever. But then we find out, okay, no, she does remember, like, she didn't remember what was going on at first, but now she remembers, and now she's angry. Cool. She's back to normal, I guess. Whatever. We're moving on. We find out that this whole time, the city that Xaden is from, his dad used to be the leader of. He's sort of like a prince, basically. His dad, I guess, is still dead, but after the whole uprising, the whole area was, like, burnt, ransacked, destroyed. But obviously, his castle that he lived in is made of stone, and you can't burn stone. So they just fixed it back up. So the whole town, the whole area of Uprising is supposed to be abandoned, but, like, the real news is people are living there. They're just, like, not talking about it to the mainland. Like, no one in the capital knows about it, or if they do, they're not talking about it, and they don't care. So basically, Xaden this whole time has been rebuilding his home, and without anyone knowing, even though he apparently has all these scars on his back because he's not supposed to be starting a rebellion, which I guess he's not really starting a rebellion, he's just, like, living his truth and, like, rebuilding his house, but whatever. I don't know where he's getting the money for this. I don't know where he is, when he has the time to go all the way there to build it. I mean, I guess he's leaving secretly at night all the time, but how does the Academy not notice this? And then he's also sneaking military aid to the Griffins to defeat the Venom that are over in the other country. There's too much going on. This is too much of an info dump, and I just don't care anymore. And this is what starts to get me really annoyed, because Xaden now is, like, fully, like, girl, I love you, and you love me. I know you love me. And he's, like, telling her how she feels, and he gives her no time to process anything. He doesn't even want to leave her alone, but she's like, Xaden, I'm gonna take a shower. I need you to leave. And he does. It's like, okay, girl, like, good for you, talking up, to, like, standing up for yourself. But at the same time, she, like, immediately forgives him and, like, they move on. He, like, barely gives her any time to breathe. And she needs to, like, process everything and, like, deal with stuff by herself because he was not fully trustworthy. And she pointed that out, and he's just like, no, but you love me, so it's fine. And she's like, okay, I love you, so it's fine. I hated that. She has no autonomy. We open the door at the very end of the book, the very last page, the very last line. Brennan is standing there, and he's the one who fixed her up, and he's been living in this city the whole time, and he's not actually dead. And that's how the book ends. It was 1:30 a.m. when I finished this book last night, and I was so angry. So these are my final thoughts and conclusions. First off, the whole lore background of this entire series makes no sense. The whole dragon griffin thing, the venom, whatever. We aren't getting enough background in the right order for this to make sense. I also feel like the venom plot seems like a book 2 type of thing, but for some reason we're doing it in this one. We haven't wrapped up the whole, like, concept of the academy still. I don't think we're going to. We completely abandoned the war games at the very end of this book. I don't know why. Brennan being alive is fine, whatever. It really wasn't that surprising like I think she thought it was, but it was not surprising at all. And I'm sort of have the feeling that what happened was Brennan died in the battle because the Riorson dad killed him, right? And then his lover, who was Taryn's rider, used his power to save Brennan and bring him back to life, but the process made him burn out and die. So that's why Taryn has no rider, now she is the rider. Meanwhile, Brennan is now alive, but faked his death basically and is now living over here. But my other problem is the whole fact that, like, the only reason she hated Xaden in the first place was because his dad killed her brother, which never actually happened, and he knew this. But her mom, like, killed his dad and did all these things to him, and he still likes her. So there's that, but I also feel like this literally changes almost the entire plot, like the fact that Brennan is still alive. So obviously the real villain is the government and General Melgren or whatever. So that's going to be in book 2. I'm going to read, so stay tuned for that video. But my final thoughts are, this book sucked. I did not like it. There's so many writing problems with it. The time jumping alone is a mess. It's a nightmare. She has no transitions in between chapters, and for some chapters, my friend pointed out, I thought it was interesting, this reads more like the pacing of it is sort of like a TV show, and there's like rooms for commercial breaks, because I was really frustrated with the one scene where after she fights Jack, she passes out, and then she wakes up in the hospital wing. That's a fine time jump, whatever. She's in the hospital wing for, I'm not even joking, like maybe 3 lines. It's like the small little paragraph at the end of this chapter. And it says, like, Xaden is sitting next to her in bed, she's healing, and he says, oranges? And she goes, oranges. And then the chapter ends, we fade to black, the commercial break starts, the commercial break ends, chapter starts again, and we just pick up where we left off. Like, it reads like a TV show. But that's not how books work, and it annoys me. So that really bothered me, but it also just seemed like in general there was no editing. There's so many different grammatical errors that I found in the book. Like, there was a sentence that were like, my children is blah blah blah. Children is a plural word, so it should be my children are. There was a couple other sentences that I found that were missing, like, particles. Like, it was missing the word the, so it was just like, October is threshing, and I'm like, that's, October is the threshing. Threshing is an event. So there's a lot of grammatical problems, but I also felt like the dialogue was horrible. It was so bad. And there were so many moments where we were learning random facts at, like, random times, and they were obviously relevant eventually, but they're not written in a fun or interesting way. It was just like, here's the information. Here it is. I was like, okay, I know this is important. I guess I'll keep it for later. This bad foreshadowing. The bones of the story are interesting. The concept, the world, very interesting. The characters, very shallow. There's no character development. So boring. I sort of want to rewrite the entire thing. It's full of tropes, which is fine. I love tropes. The tropes were fun, but at the same time, like, the writing was so bad that it took away from that. And we never, like, finished a full plot. There's so many threads of plots that, like, just end up hanging in the wind. Nothing's finished. I just don't understand. So now, I'm really excited to read the second one, because apparently it's 700 pages, so it's insanely long. There's been a lot of criticism that it's too long for no reason, that they should cut out like at least 200 pages of it. It's also been criticized that it's way worse than the first one. So it seems like a lot of the fans don't like the second one, which means that I'm definitely not gonna like the second one. So I'm very excited, because I love a bad book. And there's been so much drama with the second one, being that they were both published within the same year, and the publishing house and the editors and stuff probably didn't have enough time to do a thorough job, and that's why there's been all this drama with the second one. So those are my thoughts on Fourth Wing. Thank you for coming along to my review of Divergent with Dragons. It's such a combination of all the different, like, books that are out there already. It's Divergent. She's in Dauntless, basically. And 4 is mean to her, but she eventually falls for him. Like, that's literally all it is. Then we have the Harry Potter, we have a lot of weird little things from Twilight, like the mind reading and the imprint mating thing. We have the ACOTAR mating, I guess you could say, as well. We have the strong, broody man who's, like, extremely protective and loved her this whole time, but she hates her for no reason. We also have American Ninja Warrior midway through the book for no reason. We have How to Train Your Dragon. She's got both Toothless and the other white dragon. So thanks for coming to my review of Divergent with Dragons. So this is my bingo chart real fast. I did indeed get bingo. My friends told me I should cross off a couple more of these. I was a little lenient with some of my crossings, like, I guessed that her first kiss with Zayden would be in chapter 20, but it actually happened in 21, so I crossed that off anyway, because I was one chapter off. That's so close. But I got bingo. I'm gonna do bingo again for book 2, so please stay tuned. I'll read like 5 chapters and then I make the bingo, but I will probably make that into a separate video, so stay tuned for that video. Let me know what you think of this series. I genuinely want to know why you like it. I'm curious. I'm open to discussion. And it's just like, these are my opinions and those are your opinions, and we could both have different opinions, but I didn't enjoy it. I had fun reading it, but at the same time, it was bad. Thanks for watching the video. Bye!